and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
I always forget to unmute the mic before I change the slide. Always. Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Build, Paint, Play. I'm Dave.
Greetings, programs. I'm Jake, and today we are joined by once again by the fantabulous Ash Barker.
Bonjour. And I brought my own special guest because I'm afraid to be alone. We're also joined by Mike Cousins from Epic Duck Studios.
Awesome.
Adam Mike.
It's okay, Dave. You're not a professional streamer if you haven't gone live muted. Like that's.
Oh no! It happens like every other week.
We do that regularly.
I do it every week.
Every week.
Every single week.
7 out of 8 times.
Yeah. 60% of the time, I'm muted all the time.
Yeah. I have one of my stream channel rewards is people can basically alert me that I'm muted.
So you get a little prize. You
Yeah.
get a prize if they tell you they're muted or not. That's amazing.
Fantastic. So I will let everybody know that Ash is controlling the cameras at his end.
Yes.
So when you see him not talking and you hear a voice, that's Mike. And when you see Mike
Not talking and I'm talking, it's
talking,
Ash.
that's Ash.
Yeah. We're a little delayed over here. I couldn't get OBS to cooperate, so
No,
we're not doing 2-camera setup.
we'll get there, but it'll all be just fine.
We're not muted, at least. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Yes. You can always
The
hear our
audio's all
voices.
good.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm excited. I am excited about that. So just quickly, I'm going to say hey to Scott, Luis, Richard, Mark Maxey is here, Jez Hunt is here,
Mark,
and Chris Kemmig. Hello. Looking forward to having a nice, relaxing, distracting evening.
I like that the Venn diagram of all of our Patreons basically is complete by who you just described in the chat, because I recognize all of those names.
Fantastic. Yep. So yes, Chris, you do know all 4 of us, even though there are only 3 appearing on the screen at the moment.
No.
But so very excited to have you back, Ash, and have you on for the first time, Mike. I think at some point probably Mike will have you on separately as just talk about sculpting.
And then when you come on, you have to bring Ash, and he can be off camera.
All right.
Yeah. We'll just use the same studio setup.
Yeah. We'll just change
chairs.
chairs, just make him feel really awkward.
People yell at him in the wrong chair.
Fantastic. That'd be great. Yeah, we're looking forward to that then. But how have you guys been? What have you been up to? What's broad strokes?
So for me, I managed to survive summer. I actually took kind of the summer off this summer.
Okay.
One of the things that I realized was a lot of companies release new things in the summertime in tabletop, but no one actually plays games because everybody's outside and the kids are off school. So there's tons of conventions, and a lot of companies do their big summer release around big conventions.
Right.
But then people are all also wanting to be out and outside doing things. So like, I was like, why am I chasing people not being at home and not even really engaging in YouTube? Like YouTube metrics go down.
Yeah.
A bunch of stuff goes down algorithmically. So I just kind of like, I did hobby content, but I didn't try and chase like all of the big kind of pushes happening in the industry. And then that meant I could kind of catch up on things here in the studio. So we finished the soundstage, finished the like multicam recording setup that's in the back there now, and then started testing out how and where we'd be doing that. And so we ran a thing called Spearheads, which actually Mike was a big part of and did all the sculpting for. And you can see a bunch of the assets that he made for it on his MyMiniFactory, which was just a party. We had like a barbecue. A friend of mine made like a bunch of food. We all played Spearhead and just kind of relaxed and did like an easygoing Warhammer thing over the summer. And that was really it. That was like the one big thing that we did. And then in the fall, the kids went back to school and I had a bunch of free time, and then everything was done in the studio. And so we kicked off with, I don't know, the endless list of games that have come out in the last like 6 months.
Yeah.
There's been so much crap that came out. It's insane. So we did the new season or the new edition of Age of Sigmar. We did the new edition of Kill Team. I played the new edition of Necromunda. I did new Titanica stuff. We just did a whole bunch for Infinity N5. I don't know, they're doing a new Underworlds game. They're doing a new Lord of the Rings game. Yeah, like there's just a whole bunch of like stuff coming out right now. I did the new edition of Don't Look Back from Blacksite Studios, which is fantastic.
Oh, nice.
So,
yeah. So that's kind of it. Just like catching up, and now that we've got sort of the studio build out finished, I can start just like having fun doing project work again. And part of that was catching up on Damned25, finding project partners for, I'm doing a Hero Quest campaign with all the new Hero Quest stuff. I started working with Hasbro just recently.
Cool.
And what was the other thing I wanted to do, Mike? There's something else we wanted to play, and we talked about it already. I forgot.
We were talking about Underworlds, but I'm not sure.
Underworlds, Underworlds.
Yeah.
Yes, Underworlds. There's an additional Underworlds I want to play too. So,
are you prepping anything for This Is Not a Test too?
Yes, Joey hasn't talked to me about it yet, though. So I will absolutely. I have everything that I need to play. I just need to. Yep. I just need to play. I'm ready when they are. I've heard from Ben, Connor, or Joey about it. So Joey, if you're in the chat, just hit me up. Cool. I'm ready to go. This Not Test 1 was a big part of GMG, so I'm ready for This Not Test 2.
Yep, fantastic. Well, hopefully that'll give him a little nudge that he needs to get in touch with you about that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very cool. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, so the last year has been kind of weird for me. My wife went back to school full time about 15 months ago now, and I got 2 little kids, both in school. Well, one's in daycare, and I basically like had to just stop going to conventions, had to stop doing my YouTube channel. Just like I've had no free time because I was full-time parent while she was out at school. She's just now doing her like the end of that as a job placement that's at a local cardiac clinic. So she's actually coming home at dinner instead of being away 5 days straight. So I haven't made a YouTube content in like 6-7 months now. And I've slowly been transitioning from full-time commission painting to more and more sculpting. Okay. And that happened by accident. I sculpted a rubber duck to put on someone's base over the summer. I was doing a commission for a friend, and I just wanted to put a little rubber duck on there just to like put my spin on it, right? Epic Tech Studios. And then someone said, "Hey, that would look really good in Space Marine armor." And I did it as a joke, thinking, whatever, throw it out there. And then it paid the mortgage.
Right.
And then it did it again. And then I went, okay. So the really, really funny kind of counterpoint to that is probably 7-8 months ago, MyMiniFactory, because I've had a store on there for ages, and it's usually just kind of breaks even, does a little better one month than the other, but like it's never been big. It's never been like revenue I count on, right?
Yeah.
And then MyMiniFactory reached out to me probably 3-4 months before this happened, and we're like, "Hey, would you be interested in starting a tribe?" And I went, "Well, I don't really have time for dedicated sculpting month after month, and I don't have like a theme to kind of build a tribe around." And so after this one random duck sold a bajillion copies, I just reached out to them. I'm like, hey, I think I got my theme now. So we've been doing, it's called Duck Drop, and we've been doing that now. God, it's like 5 months. So this month is Star Wars. I had Duck Vader went up on last week. I just finished the sculpt for Count Dooku. And then we got Darth Maulard going up next week.
Darth Maulard.
Yeah. So it's basically, it's like $2 gets you like the main duck each month. And then if you go up to 5 or 10, you get the whole set. And yeah, that's been doing really, really well. It's been like slow steamroller month after month, building up a little bit of steam, and has basically replaced most of my painting work, which was just didn't see coming.
Right.
Yeah, like that was not on that wasn't on the map at all.
It wasn't
like,
the 2024 big.
No, that was on like the 2026 map, and it's like, okay, that's fine.
You discovered the Venn diagram overlap between Jeep owners and tabletop gaming.
Pretty much, yeah. I didn't even know about the Jeep thing until after I put the Space Marine dugout there, and then 700 people were like, "Can I put this on my Jeep?"
Since you told me about that, everybody who drives like a Jeep Wrangler now, I see the ducks on their dashboards.
Yeah,
and it's like that's all I see. I don't.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. We'll talk a little bit more about that's that later in the show, I think.
Yeah,
that's cool. Jake, what have you been up to in the last week? You know,
I'm still sorting through my 40K stuff. I tracked down, dude. I have some stuff that I literally forgot that I had. Like genuinely, I'm like, wow, this is super cool. I didn't realize I had this. So I'm gonna do some more. I think once we get into the cold weather, I'm gonna dump everything out, do a bunch of conversion stuff, and just blow through a bunch of it. But then I found, he's in the chat somewhere. Luis is on here. I found 3 of the, what is it, suppressors? I found 3 of the suppressor marines that you can't get in anything unless you buy the Vanguard box. And if you're trying to run this combat patrol, you have to have them. So
the Phobos librarian, the suppressors, you have to have half the box from Wolfspear. Basically.
Right, but like you can buy the librarian separately and you can buy the incursors separately. You just can't get the suppressors at all.
Because I think the suppressors they were on the frame with the captain, the lieutenant, and something else. Like they're on like a mixed starter set frame.
Right.
So I was like, I have the 3 that came in the box, and then when that box came out, our buddy Ray Rappaport, who Dave knows, wanted the Chaos half. So I got basically another whole box. Like we split a box, and I got that one. And then when we were moving the store, my business partner Ben was like, "Well, I don't play Phobos Marines. Like you can have all this stuff." And I was like, "Cool." So he gave the librarian stuff out to people, but I was like, I have 9 suppressors. I was like, I'm never going to run 9 of these guys. So Luis is like, oh, I think I want to do the Combat Patrol, and I want to do Raven Guard. And I was like, I gave him this mag. I was like, here's an old White Dwarf. You should run this one, and I'll get you the suppressors. So I dug through my box and found 3 of them. But yeah, so it's mostly been me sorting stuff. And then I crushed this in the last week. So since we played last week, I read Red Tide and Outer Dark.
Oh, the Caradron's book.
They're pretty solid. Like Robbie McNiven did a pretty good job with these. Like they are super fun.
It's all basically Jason Voorhees.
the first book is crazy because on the cover they show all these Night Lords, and you're like, well, this is gonna be a murder fest. So it's a bunch of Night Lords fighting the Carcharodons, and you're like, yeah, this is gonna be crazy. It's fun though. It's a good book. The second book has a little more sort of varied approach. There's a lot of other stuff going on. And he definitely set it up for there to be a third book. But it was enjoyable. So knock that out.
Nice.
Did a little prep work for PAX Unplugged, and did a little bit of role playing. A buddy of mine wanted to try out. There's a new RPG called Outgunned, made by Two Little Mice, I think. So we tried that out on Friday last week and did a live stream, and my buddy Doug ran us through the event. Really fun system. Super straightforward. The whole concept of the pitch of the book is we're in an action movie. So it's up to there's no game master. You have a director, and then we're all the stars. So the idea is that he picks a decade. It's the 80s or the 90s or 2000s or whatever. And then we play in the game. And then every time you make a check, you can accrue grit, which is you taking damage and stuff. and you can also get like successes that kind of roll. And once you hit a certain point, you gain what's called the spotlight, which is you take over the narrative for the end of the scene. You know, so it's like I rolled enough successes, I blow up the building as I walk away in slow motion with it behind me. Like so it's a fun system though. It was a good time, and you can definitely use it for anything. Right. But it was fun to like, you know, kind of wrap my head around that system.
It's like a last action hero sort of RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Cool. Nice.
How about you, Dave? How many new armies did you paint?
3. But I was just gonna say, rather than doing me for the moment, gonna say hi to Mikolai in the chat. Alan Borthwick is here as well, joining us from New Zealand. Scott Radham says, Mike, the board of bad ideas is my favorite thing ever.
I gotta remember. I think I took a picture of it specifically to share. One second. See if we've got it. Yeah, the board of bad ideas. So I have a whiteboard just over my desk, and when people from my Twitch chat just are like, "Hey, you should do this stupid thing," I just write it on the board, and that's where Earthworm Jim's Space Marine heads came from.
That was your most recent thing that blew up. Yeah.
Yep. Scott says he's incorporated it into his work life.
Nice.
So,
okay, no, I don't.
The board of no bad ideas. That's the thing, is you have to have the board of no bad ideas. Where
it used to have a header. It was like
insanity.
Duck's dumb idea board, and I had to erase that to make room to write more ideas because
all the bad ideas get on there.
Awesome.
My favorite thing up there right now is the Flocking Dead, which is
Flocking Dead.
Nice.
So that's going to be.
So I have to do a duck expansion for Last Days. Is that the next thing I have to do? I have to do an all avian expansion.
Duck. It's just the bird flu.
It's just the birds. It's just chalks the birds.
It's just the birds
with ducks. Yeah.
Mike, you should play
as well as Cal. John Roberts is here, and he says Space Marines in FOMO armor. The suppressors.
Yes.
Space Marines in FOMO armor.
James joined us as well, and Jess says that that outgun sounds a bit like the miniatures game 7TD.
Yeah, 7TD is almost like that. Yeah.
But excellent. Alan says the space sharks are like serial killers, but with all with common Maori names, which is a bit jarring as a Kiwi, as the names feel don't feel very much like Space Marine names.
No, they did that. They did that thing where they pick like a sort of like a not. It's it's Earth, but it's not Earth piece of history, and then do their own kind of like take on like the Vikings with the Space Wolves,
right?
Yeah. Except they're the Space Marines that the Night Lords are afraid of.
What if your nightmares had nightmares?
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellent.
I will say, like, going into that series, I was like, is this going to be all like edgelordy and stuff? And
I was expecting Soul Drinkers. And it wasn't.
Yeah, oh God! Don't get me started on the Soul Drinkers.
Yeah, they're super edgelordy, but like, again, I wasn't really sure what to expect for this series, and I started reading it. It's the cool thing is, so it starts off and you're like, oh, well, they're just they're murderous, they're loyalist murder hobos, and then you start reading it and you're like, oh, like they have a really weird take on like what's the right thing to do. It's crazy. Like I was like, okay, by the time you get to the mid part of the book, you're like, this is totally different than what I thought it was going to be. Like this is not what I was expecting going in.
And not in a Soul Drinkers kind of way.
No. They write it more like Jeff Lindsay's Dexter, where they have like a code, but they're all sociopathic psychopaths. Basically.
Okay. Yeah. They don't go, these spider legs were definitely a gift from the Emperor.
Yeah, no, the Emperor doesn't give you spider legs.
Yeah, dude, that book, you're like, what is happening?
40K fiction is all rated on a scale of Xenos to Soul Drinkers. Like it's just that's if you want to know what the arc is.
The worst part is like Soul Drinkers Omnibus was the first thing I read for 40K lore, and I was like,
oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was.
You're like, oh,
the bottom.
Cool. Like,
it was like. I had originally, someone had explained to me the concept of the Soul Drinkers, like they're loyal to mankind, but not to the Imperium, and like okay, like I can get behind that. That's because like it makes them sound almost more like an actual good guy in the 40K universe when it was described that way. It's like no, they're just all idiots.
Yeah,
they have to get Rogel Dorn's lightsabers. So their Spider Commander can like
one of them has fan blades for hands.
Yes,
it literally it's the 40K novel equivalent of when you all as teenagers sat around in like a shitty shack smoking what you think was marijuana was probably just pencil shavings, and you're like, we have to write this down. This is the greatest idea ever.
Yeah.
It was like one of those where you're just like, and then you listen to it afterwards, and you're like, you guys are complete morons. What is?
I just don't understand. I don't understand why Ben Counter didn't talk to Graham or Dan Abnett or anybody and was like, hey, like, does this sound right? And I'm sure Dan would have been like, listen, I've written some crazy shit.
Man. It was fan fiction back then. That's the thing is like this is the prehistory of Black Library, right? Like it was they would just take whoever write for them back then. That was there was no.
It's like, yay, someone wrote a book. The end.
Yeah. The comment one of my author friends said about when Dan started writing for Black Library, he's like, he's way too good to be writing for you guys. What is going on? Like, what is happening? Why is Dan like? Because he knew Dan from writing for 2000 AD and stuff like that. And he's like, why is this guy writing for Black Library? What's happening? Because it was just fanfic. It was just like who writes this stuff? You know what I mean?
Ben, my best part of so Ben loves Dan Abnett books, but also doesn't like any of his books at the same time. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, so when Dan writes 40K books, they're like, well, it's Dan, so he can do whatever he wants. So he just like makes up tons of stuff, and then it's like, and he's so good at like coming up with like reasons why it exists. But it's like, yeah, so I created this whole like other substructure of like Imperial Guard units that don't exist anymore and all this other stuff. And there's like, John Grammaticus and stuff. And I'm sure that the editors at Black Library were like, Dan, we don't understand what's going on. And whoever their boss is, like Jess was like, it's fine. Well, that's like how does this memo, fit in? And it's like, don't worry about it.
I think what Dan's magic was, and because lots of what he created got codified, like Voxcaster is a Dan Abnett idea, right? Like Long Laz, there's a million things that come from like the Tanith books, which were originally just like fan fiction in Inferno. Like if you like Ghostmaker is literally just the short stories from Inferno, which was just a write-in fan magazine that Dan wrote, stitched together with like some loose narrative about, and it's kind of like Band of Brothers. It's just these like vignettes of each of the characters as they become the ghosts, and that's the assignment of 40K. I think the reason people pine for Warhammer 40,000 in like the 90s and early 2000s is everything was presented like that. It didn't need to be codified. It didn't need a lexicon. Everything was these chaotic vignettes. It was the literary or fiction equivalent of the way art even was presented in the books, where you have 900 different artists doing their take on a Space Marine, doing their take on a Chaos Space Marine, doing their take on an orc. And so you have like Wayne England's orcs versus Adrian Smith's orcs, and they're completely different. You know what I mean? And then it's just like the different sculptors too, right? When Brian Nelson codified what the 40K orc or the Games Workshop orc was in like the early 2000s. And I think that's that era of kind of punk zine, everybody gets to have their own take on it, was reflective of what the hobby was in general. And I think Dave will back me up on this, because that was what you came to the game table with. You came to the game table with your vision of what a Space Marine army is. You came to the table with your vision of what, you know what I mean? Like your corner of the universe. And so when the universe was full of more holes and you couldn't see the whole picture, I think it was actually more compelling, because people felt that it was okay to play inside that universe a bit more, because there's 1,000 chapters of Space Marines, and yours can be this beautiful, unique snowflake that exists however you want. And I think that we do that less and less now, because the fiction is more of a product tie-in, right? It's about selling a thing. Yeah.
And now it's become, if you have a Hellblaster, you have to have the white shoulder pad trim, or else you've done it wrong. And it's like,
I mean, it was always a little bit that way. Everybody wanted to say how it worked. Everybody wanted to like be right with Warhammer.
No. Excellent. Turin Buckley has joined us. Says, what's up, Dave, Jake, Ash? He doesn't know. He didn't know you're here, Mike. So
cheers.
And Jez says, Paul Bonner.
I don't really get my own camera, so
you get your own camera next time. Okay? If you do, okay. Don't embarrass me.
Jez Hunt says, Paul Bonner, Orcs and Goblins were my absolute favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wayne England orcs and goblins are
one thing I was going to say that I've been excited about. So yesterday I received a package that was the well, basically once my printer has printed all of the interiors for the books, for the Art of books, he sends me each of these
nice
of signatures. So each of these sections is called a signature.
Cool.
It's like 16 pages per section, and I get to go through and make sure that there's nothing completely egregious. There's no sort of major error that the printer has made or that I have made where I have to go reprint the whole lot.
There's no pale face riders on the back of your magazine.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mordheim.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where, like, if there is an error, and I have to decide if it's enough of an error, and I have to look at my files to see if I made them
enough of an error.
So
the cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. So really excited. Here it is.
That's super cool.
Wonderful.
Oh, look how cool. I'm furious already at those paint jobs. Look at how good they are. I'm so angry. Look at that. Jesus.
They are awesome.
Oh,
That's
Ash,
incredible.
and it's worse than you think, because all of Joshua's stuff is like this big.
No, look, I'm already furious at the talent of just the people in the chat. Like, if you've seen any Scott Radham's paint jobs, they're bananas. Like, I hate everyone today that paints better than I do.
Jake, you haven't seen that one before.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, Pugsley.
Do you like that one?
I love it.
That's so cool.
So yeah, I'm very excited. I got to look through those today, and everything is good. So now they can move on to the binding of the books. So
Hell yeah.
Yay! But I'm also working with the 28 magazine folks to put together we're doing a Kickstarter in January for like a printed collection of articles, sort of cherry picked from their first 6 volumes.
Nice.
Right on.
A lot of going through that, where because those are put together for web viewing.
Yeah, you gotta re-optimize it.
Yeah, I got to go through and make sure that the images that are in them in those articles are okay for printing.
Yeah,
the right size for printing. And I'm probably at about there's like about 50% of them so far have been okay. The rest have been like, hey, you know how you did that article? Can you send through those photos?
I need the raws of those, please.
Original?
Yeah.
Yeah. People are like, I don't have them. It's like, okay, can you take some more photos? And they're like,
that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
I don't have those models anymore. Can you send me a whole bunch of new photos and I'll completely relay out the article? Yeah, sure. Okay, great. So I've been working on that. It's been a lot of craziness, crazy fun. But yes, so checking the chat. I think we had, who else do we have join us?
Hank jumped in.
Yep, we saw Hank. What do we got? Ben joined us. Ben Fail joined us. Hey, Ben.
Fail.
And Scott said, Ash, I got to go to Gary Sparks' house last week. He's the Virgo dude. I got to see some of the museum collection.
Oh,
it was actually too much talent for me to behold.
Yeah. yeah, I would just cry.
We are excited about that. I think when they get close to opening, we'll probably have somebody from Virgo's Vault on the show.
Nice.
But yeah. He sent hundreds of pieces by the top talent on Earth, all 11 out of 10 masterpieces next to each other that actually just blurred together. Fantastic. Awesome. Oh, cool. So yeah, Jez says 2025 is the year of 28. That 28 book comes out, and 28 years later.
Ooh, so much 28s.
Yeah, so that movie. So Jez actually worked on the movie 28 years later.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see that.
I'm excited to see Cillian Murphy back in something that's not a Quiet Place movie.
Yeah, that would be good. Awesome. So I think we are ready to jump in and start talking about a whole bunch of other bits and pieces. So let me just bring up the presenting screen.
Oh, that's nice and ghetto.
There we go. Okay. So, of course, first up, we're going to thank our wonderful sponsors, the Army Painter, who are our season sponsor. Last week being Halloween, of course. Tyler posted up some cool photos of spooky things that some of the Army Painter team had been painting. So this is their lead studio painter and the guy behind a lot of the War Paints Fanatic range, Thomas Colto.
You got Josh's reply right there.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was fantastic. It was like straight up front and center, so it was great. But yeah, definitely head on over to the Army Painter website, linked below. Check out their blog. A lot of great spooky season miniatures painted by the team there.
I love that the Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah,
he's so cool.
Yeah, I love that in this piece. The so you've got the nice, like the pale skin of the vampire's face. You've got the saturated red in there, and then just everything else desaturates and gets darker as you sort of move further away.
Sin City look.
Yeah, just pushes all that focus directly to that to the vampire.
That book's actually pretty fun. I read the character, the Vampire Lord. I read the first book and the second.
Yeah, he's cool. Because he's supposed to be like the anti-vampire, right? Like he's the
I love his whole vibe. It's like oh, I'm the eldest son of this like kingdom that's in trouble, and like the vampires are like he doesn't know they're vampires, but they're like, listen, we can help you like take care of things. And he's like, well, we're about to get overrun by a chaos army, so anything you can do, like I'm in. And they're like, cool, we'll turn you into a vampire. And he's like, sounds good. And then like by the time he gets back, like chaos has won, and he's like, wait, what? Like he's all super upset about it. Like it's great.
Son of a.
I feel like I got tricked.
Yeah, he's like, we got a deal.
Excellent. But yeah, go and check out the article on the blog. Also, we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. Jake, are you wearing your BuildPaintPlay hoodie?
Yeah, I'm wearing the Stars and Stripes one. So
he's got his gang colors on.
So yeah, there's 3 that are up for available. So the one that I'm wearing, the Stars and Stripes one, and the black camo one, they're both pullovers, and then you can also get it in a black zip up. And it's like the one we did for Cat Dave's. It's got the actual cloth seam that covers the zipper, so that they can do the whole press, and then you'll unzip down the middle of the logo.
Right. So
it was, believe it or not, it was harder than I thought it would be to find a hoodie that had that.
Right. No, I can believe it.
Like a lot of them have the exposed zipper.
Yeah. So there is a link in the notes below if you want to go and grab yourself a BuildPaintPlay hoodie from the Alpha Omega website. Cool. And something else I've been. Oh no, sorry, I slipped this in. This is the only one I had time to slip in from the cheers that Ash sent me at the beginning of the show. So Mike, this is some stuff that you've been working on.
Yes, these were this is kind of like an idea collab between Ash and I, which was a spearhead objective zones that have like the removable tokens, so you can mark who's actually captured them, and then you can throw these down on a regular Warcry mat to place spearheads on it.
Cool.
Yeah, because a lot of people had like the 22 by 30 mats. You know what I mean? But they wanted to try out the spearhead game because they already had the miniatures, and this was just the easiest way to do it. So you did terrain too. You did some bespoke terrain. There's
also this piece here. It's not in the picture. There's a separate little ring that adds to it because AOS objective zones are just slightly bigger, so you can expand it out to be an AOS objective zone as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because one of them is a 6-inch circle with a 40 millimeter circle in the middle of it. The other one is 40 millimeters plus 3 inches.
Plus 3 inches,
yeah. Okay. Which is just annoyingly different.
Yeah,
difference for difference's sake.
Yeah. So there's a 20 millimeter just ring that can go around it to make it bigger. Anyway, it's
awesome. I just noticed that even though they're super tiny, that you've done a screen in screen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. This was just easier. I'm just done with clicking. I just
you got OBS to behave.
We're master blastering right now.
That is totally fine. Jez is asking if that's the top of the staff from Raiders of Lost Ark.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. We mentioned it. So I was talking about it before. Duckdrop.link.
That's it.
Is the link. So if you type that in, that'll take you to Mike's MyMiniFactory page, where you can check out all of his sculpting. I will put it after the show. I will put that link into the notes.
Cheers.
So, all super cool, and of course, the link to your Damned25 playlist is already in the notes.
Sweet.
So you can check that out. Fantastic. Next up, yes, I've been working on some Death Watch.
Cool.
So they're mostly done.
Nice.
Mostly. I'm gonna do just do the I think I'm up to like the chapter symbols and the eyes and that kind of thing.
It always cracks me up, Dave, that you file off all the chest eagles.
Right. Well, I don't always do it, but for these guys, I did. This model here, the guy with the hammer and the beard. That's the model I did during the Valbjorn class at Nova, and he had already sort of fired all that off. So I was like, I probably should do it for the rest of the team. But what I get to mess around with now and go back and do is maybe do some. Got to work out some freehand work to do on those sections.
You should make a Titus to lead them.
Yeah.
Watch Titus. Yeah, that's the beginning. That's the tutorial mission in Space Marine 2. Is Titus is it's him and 3 of his Death Watch buddies.
Nice.
Fighting Tyranids, and it's you should watch. You can just Google the cinematic. It's probably the coolest 40K cinematic in like the last 20 years. It's pretty awesome. they're in a Corvus Black Star, and gargoyles just throw their bodies into the engines until it crashes, and are like assault. It's pretty rad.
Nice.
Awesome. I would definitely have to check that out. Man. I've got so I'm doing so the guy with the beard and the long hair is going to be Space Wolf. This guy on the right here with the green shoulder pad is going to be Aurora chapter, or the Aurora.
Deep
cut.
Aurora
chapter, I think. Guy at the back there with the hawk over him is White Scar. That's using a sculpted shoulder pad from the Cassius, Kill Team Cassius.
I see you got a Crimson Fist in there.
Yeah, going with Crimson Fist for this one. And I was like, do I paint his right fist crimson? Yeah.
Can you be a Crimson Fist without a Crimson Fist?
Yeah, it's not a theme.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll be like you can paint everything else except for these things. And then the guy at the back here who was pointing is going to be an Iron Snake.
Cool.
So just sliding there. So I got to paint the snake on there, and I'm going to do a little.
Give him a spear.
I think all of the what do you call it? No, this guy has a whole bunch of knives, so he's just a blade master.
Nice.
It's gonna be like using the black blades, black shield blades. I think they're called in the list.
Did you take these photos using the lessons you learned last week?
No, I did not. I did not apply any of the lessons that I learned then to this.
Nice.
But I will be there. I have already been messing around with a little like box diorama, and of course all the pieces fall out. But I did learn a lesson about composition from last week, and I'm applying that to this. So once I finish that, I'll show everybody. But yes, I'm applying photography lessons to composing a diorama.
Nice.
Should be good. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to. But we're here to talk about Mordheim.
Yeah, 25 years later.
And specifically, so probably about a month ago, we had Turn on. We talked about Broheim, and we talked about Mordheim, and we talked about the
all the classics: Carnival of Chaos, the Skaven Slinger list,
the greatest hits of a game that was designed for form over function.
Yes. So let's just go back to that for a second. And Ash, tell us a little bit about the concept.
Sure. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, this is the 25th anniversary of what I would consider to be the last punk rock album of Games Workshop, which is Mordheim. And it had kind of a special place for me. So earlier in the year, I started a project where I just started making a bunch of noise about the fact that it was the 25th anniversary of the game. And that seems to have kicked off lots of other people taking up the charge and talking about it too. It's actually been quite a loud year for Mordheim, considering it's been a quarter century since it came out.
Yeah.
And people are weirdly still playing it. So the idea was I was going to play with all 6 original warbands. I got through about 3 before people stopped coming in, and lost interest. My regular Mordheim opponents were like onto something else, and also summer kicked off, and there was a million other games coming out. So all my usual collaborators were just busy with like whatever the hot, exciting thing that the industry was doing was. But it was super fun. So the goal was, and I did this twice previously with Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader and Adeptus Titanicus, where I took games from my childhood, actually 3 times, because I did it with Hero Quest as well. And actually, one of my most viewed videos, I think, on GMG is the Let's Play Hero Quest, where we did the 1980s Hero Quest box set. Like my community of patrons basically got together and we found my Hero Quest box and found enough pieces to make a complete set, because I'd pillaged that thing basically from the time I was a kid for all the miniatures.
Right.
But I get a real kick out of doing justice to things I couldn't do justice to back then, if that makes sense, right? Where you're trying to take a piece of your childhood and give it the paint jobs and the love and the care and the attention that you just weren't physically capable of when you were a moronic teenager or like a child. And I picked Mordheim to do this year because it was the 25th anniversary. So I went through, and you get some pictures of this. I acquired a copy of the original cardstock terrain unpunched.
Actually,
and what I did was I zhuzhed it up with some basing. So I took some just some MDF and I made some cobblestone basing. That's it's craft foam. You get stuff at the dollar store. It's basically for kids to like cut out shapes in foam, but you can glue it down and you can just draw cobblestones into it with like a pencil. And then Mod Podge it. Yeah, it etches basically. And then you Mod Podge it so it's like hard afterwards, and you can spray paint it, airbrush it, whatever. And I made these as like foundations so that the cardstock terrain had some strength to it. And I did a original starter set worth of terrain. So I painted all of the bits that get painted. And you can tell my copy of Mordheim's OG because it's actually from the first printing, where the Red Wolf Inn, which is to the far left, that big piece of terrain, it was printed with the exterior backwards. So you actually had to cut it. It had a printing error. It's kind of like when you collect rare stamps, there's a weird printing error. But you can see the red is on the inside of that building along with the floorboards because it folds up in an L. The red was printed on the back. It should have been printed on the other side on the front to fold up properly. But I left it that way so you could see that mine was like an OG piece of cardstock.
Nice.
So it weirdly has the interior wall and the exterior with like some graffiti and stuff on it, and the exterior wall and the interior. You'd have to like cut along the line and flip it to do it the other way. And I was like, no, I want to show that this is the wrong one. And then just zhuzhed up with some like kind of modern tricks, like going along the edges of all the cardstock with like a Sharpie to dull it down and blacken out the edges. And then we did the Star Set contents too. So the original Plastic Skaven and a Plastic Human Mercenaries warbands. And we started there and then went through doing other warbands too. So you can see there's my, I think the Reichlanders. Yeah, the Reichlanders. No, the Mindenheimers. Yeah, Mindenheimers actually.
Yeah.
So I did Mindenheimers as my warbands. I have all the original medals and stuff too, but I started with the plastics because they're what came in the box. And then we did the Skaven as well, the Dreaded Woo, who are my Skaven warbands. And we went from there. We got some Undead on the table, which is one of the original warbands. We got to play against I play as my Possessed, and that went exactly as well as my Possessed usually get to do. And the hitch was you had to play it with period miniatures. So anyone who came in, we had to like build and paint basically 6th edition fantasy and back, like fantasy miniatures. So yeah, there's my Mindenheimers. Yeah, and then my Skaven.
Is that just the militia box?
So it's the militia box is the Mordheim box. The militia box was later released. Same with the Skaven Night Runners were later released as individual kits for 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which Thomas Printon also wrote. And what's funny is 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which has probably the most complete rule set in a rulebook ever, has Warhammer Fantasy Skirmish, which is just Mordheim. It's just the Mordheim rules reprinted in the rulebook, minus the campaign stuff, and plus a bunch of like additional things for like mounted models and weapons and stuff too. Yeah, it's the militia box. It's the militia box with the sprue that came with the Empire Knights to make the Mindenheim. So it has the cavalry hammers and all that stuff as well. So that's where all the Mindenheim heads came from.
Yeah, you say that the hammer here and the wolf cloak and the The bearded
the
heads, yeah.
snorri bearded heads. Yeah, it's funny because I think that kit still stands up as one of the most used and probably versatile fantasy miniature kits, and I'm pretty sure it's Perry.
Yeah, it is definitely.
Yeah,
I painted an entire sort of Sigmarite army.
Yep.
So it was like just regiment upon regiment of militia.
I never get tired of building them. That militia kit, I could build that kit forever. It's funny because for a guy who like these days doesn't enjoy building miniatures that much, probably because there's less variety in how you build miniatures today, and they're all AI cut. You know what I mean? To fit in weird ways. It's not intuitive to build.
Yeah.
These like intuitive old miniatures, I could sit and build these for.
It's a torso with arms on it. Not.
Yeah. I could build these forever. This is my favorite way a miniature can go together.
I remember you were telling me when the old world stuff came out, like it took you like the 100-foot soldiers you built in the same time as like the one guy on the dragon or whatever it was. Like
yeah, dragon was obnoxious.
It's like he took me as long as the 100 other models.
It was the old world Bretonnians. I built the entire Bretonnian army minus the Lord in the same time it took to build the Bretonnian Lord and a Pegasus. He was obnoxious. That miniature. I hated building that miniature.
I have not put that guy together.
Oh, he's a nightmare. Just the way he's like holding the pieces of the reins are a nightmare too. So so Damned25 was basically me going back and reliving and painting stuff to a standard I couldn't have painted it when I was a kid, and then playing games and celebrating the fact that this weird kind of punk rock album is now 25 years old. And I don't think it's ever really been, there's nothing really that's come out that's anything like it, that's emulated it. And what's funny about it is it's so kindly regarded, not because of the gameplay, which is not great. Like it's not a balanced game in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But because it is a book of imagination prompts that I think people have such a fondness for, that it still inspires younger hobbyists who weren't even necessarily alive when it came out. And it's pretty special in that regard. And it's also, I think, the last time there was a real freedom of creativity and expression in that studio, because the next thing after that's Gorka Morka, which was a entirely sales. There's a whole article on Goonhammer about the history of
Gorka Morka's before it.
Gorka Morka's before this.
Is it before it?
Yeah.
I think it's in development before, because I think Mordheim's in development before Gorka Morka.
Oh yeah.
Sixth, and then Gorka Morka gets sped out.
In 97.
Yeah, because Gorka Morka came out 2 years early. Because I was thinking the same thing when you were like, "It's the last punk rock thing that GW did," and my brain went, "Isn't Gorka Morka after it?" And I looked at it, I was like, "Nope, it was before."
No, Gorka Morka's before that, but Gorka Morka is not the same thing, and it got done like super fast.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a lot of freedom of expression and just cause stuff in Mordheim that has nothing to do with sales, really.
But it was something. Inquisitor came out the year after this.
2000. Yep.
But at the same time, like, so Inquisitor has that sort of invitation to freedom kind of thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have in that book, it didn't have the same connection to the models that people could buy.
Yeah. If Inquisitor had been in 28mm, we'd still be playing it today.
Yeah.
And people are and I think that's what 28 came out of.
That's really
honestly.
it is.
Like it was just people playing Inquisitor in 28mm.
Yeah. There was a much bigger jump between the two. It was more some sort of experimental rock opera.
Yeah. It's the prog rock of miniature.
Yeah, Inquisitor is the King Crimson album of Game Workshop. Like,
it's the Hawkwind of.
It's the Hawkwind of. I remember a bunch of us sitting around talking about Inquisitor, and we were like, literally a bunch of us. It was guys who were in development, guys who worked for different companies. We're all kind of sitting around, and we're all like, "Man, Inquisitor's really cool." And we're like, "Yeah, we like it." And then everybody collectively went, "Why did a company that makes 28mm games put out a game that's not 28mm?" And none of us we're like, I don't know. Like nobody had a real answer.
I'm pretty sure Dave and I can both tell you that having worked for Workshop at the time, we didn't know either.
Why?
They didn't, nobody knew. Because that was the reason, the same reason why there's a tarot card in the Mordheim book.
I like to think that it's right out of what's the Christopher Guest movie? It's right out of Spinal Tap where like the artists did everything and sent it in, and the sculptors were like, got it, and they did the measurements wrong, and they made it instead of 28 mil, they were like, oh, we made the wrong size, and I'm like, that's not what we sent you guys. Like,
yeah.
And they're like, well, they're already all printed. And they're like, well, I guess we'll put it out at this scale.
Yeah. No, I think
next? Dreadfleet.
It's funny. It's funny because I think that I think actually what that was, that 54 mil expression of 40K, was them attempting to do an Age of Sigmar. Was them attempting to say, like, it doesn't make what you want, do what you want with it. It doesn't exist inside. Like, it was an attempt to kind of communicate that to people and say, it doesn't matter. Make something cool. You know what I mean? Make it out of whatever. And kind of push back upon the idea that there was this like right or wrong way of hobbying. I think it was just very early and very like poorly communicated into the actual like hobbyists and customers.
Right. Well, I remember even the terrain. Like, remember we got all those really cool terrain kits,
hard foam terrain kits. Yeah. No,
like the actual plastic ones. The first sets of plastic terrain, the buildings and stuff.
Sure.
And all of them were like a weird scale. And our friend of ours was like, oh, I have a buddy who was an engineer who helped them work on this. And he's like, it was designed as 54 millimeter terrain for Inquisitor. Yeah. And then Inquisitor didn't stick around very long. And they're like, well, we already have these designed. So they just released them. But that's why, like,
all the
Space Marines come up to like the windows are here on the Space Marines. Like,
it's why all the deck plates for City Fight are in 40 mil squares, right? Basically, they're like movement spots almost.
Right.
Yeah. It's so anyway. So going back to that, like, that idea of it being a punk rock album, and the last time I think that there was just a lot of creative control inside the studio itself, right? Where they had an autonomy basically and got to make what they wanted to make. I think that feeling of sort of just creative expression in the writing, in the game design, and it being less of a sort of studio notes or sales noted sort of like product is why it stuck around for so long, because I think it even today communicates that idea of like, it's okay to do things just because it pushes the story forward, just because it makes it feel more like the thing you want it to be and have exist in the game. And the outcome of the game, I think the magic of Mordheim is the outcome of the game very often. I think Mike can actually test this because we played some Mordheim together, is that very often you will win the game but lose the post game, and that you can lose the game and win the actual after game when you go and you explore and you get your money and you get your weird stone, you find a Gromroll weapon, or, you know, like whatever happens afterwards.
Yeah.
So that idea that there's a before, like there's a story happening before the game, there's the game itself, and there's a story happening after the game, really draws people in even 25 years later, because we don't have a game that's done that. Like, there's games that have emulated Mordheim since then. Like, I very specifically Last Days has a lot of Mordheim in it because I grew up playing Mordheim. Yeah. So that idea that like
there's little sprinkles that like Frostgrave has a little
Frostgrave has
bit
that.
Of it, like,
exactly. You've got these modern games where we as game designers grew up playing Mordheim.
Yeah.
And had this sort of like intuitive understanding that like one of the things that keeps you excited to come back and see the next adventure that your little group of people is going to have is that ever after effect, right? There's a thing that happens after you put the dice down and after the game ends, where the story keeps going. There's the post-credit scene, basically, you know what I mean, that like leads into whatever the next part of the story is going to be.
Yeah.
And Mordheim isn't the first to do that, because Necromunda had that, but Necromunda's was accounting, where Mordheim's was narrative, right? Mordheim's was a story. Necromunda's was very much like the accounting of running a gang and where your territories are, and the mercantile stuff of like running.
It was like a 4X almost kind of thing.
Ben talks about like BattleTech is the first game to have because it was created by a bunch of engineering nerds. It's the first game to have a creative accounting phase. So there's like movement, shooting, and then your accounting phase where you figure out like, how much heat did I build minus how much how much ammo did I expend? Like, you have to do all this bookkeeping to figure out like what you did.
It's the simulation part of it, right?
Yeah.
They're obsessed with outcomes. I think the irony of the process in BattleTech is the hit roll is one dice roll. And there could be like 20 dice rolls after that one dice roll to see what happens from that one dice roll. So like the initiation of like, I roll 2d6. And then your opponent might roll another bunch of 2d6s afterwards to see what actually happens. And it's an outcome-driven game. What's funny is I do think, though, that BattleTech has that narrative element. That accounting is actually the story in the mind's eye of that simulation of what's happening to the robot while the thing's happening. I think that the love of BattleTech that people have is actually that surprise and delight of my lucky shot pings right through your armor and gets this like ammo cache that explodes that knocks you over so you fall down. Like, it's just that the post-game actions in BattleTech happen during the game. Right. There's this massive sort of like outcomes driven flow chart of things that can happen, and there's a gajillion possibilities. So you get the surprise and delight of like what happens after this first initial 2d6 roll. So Damned25 basically was 1, me getting to re-engage with that, 2, talk about it a whole bunch and ask people for their stories, like how did they, because I've had people come in who've like literally were like little kids when Mordheim came out, right? Like they never got to see it in a store, but they encountered it like for free during the Fnatic era. Like you, for instance, never played it.
No, I mean, like, I didn't even get into this hobby till 2007. Like Mordheim was dying and or dead at my LGM.
Post Fnatic era, right? Fnatic's like 2003 to 2004. So like there's a whole generation of people that still somehow encountered it.
Yeah.
After having it not be on the shelves forever.
I only encountered it because Cotter was into it.
Yeah.
And she like just made Bill play it at the LGS.
Yeah, made everybody play.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she just went, you have some, because I'm the one time I ever played it before you was and it was with like an unofficial Dark Elf warband that was just like from like a PDF from some fan site.
The Nagaroth probably.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
One. Yeah.
When did they officially pull the plug? Because I remember we had Mordheim on the shelf at my stores, like both of the stores I was at.
So the rule book became available for free during the Specialist Games era, which was when Fnatic Magazine was being published. All of those previously published games were free PDFs. And we used to do things like a Games Day. We would print these CDs of all of the
I've got one of those from the last Canadian Games Day. They were just like, here, have this living document CD.
It's got every living document for all the rule books and stuff like that. You couldn't buy a print copy of the Mordheim rule book probably post 2004 because they did Empire in Flames and they reprinted the rule book for Empire in Flames.
Remember we still had in like 2006, 2007, we still had a core box of Mordheim.
I mean, you might have, but I don't think it was available. I don't think it was available in the warehouse at that point. If you did, that was a stash somebody had.
Yeah, it was. I think it's because I was at the bunker in Harvard, and and I think Drew Cremines or somebody was like, "Oh, I ordered 30 of these for an event," and then like he didn't do it or something.
Yeah. Well, so that was the thing is like we had copies of Blood Bowl, we had copies of like Epic 40,000, like just sitting in the like, and everyone. So what we would do is every once in a while we would just bring them out for special events and be like, buy a retro box, you know what I mean? Like just to like try and get some of that stuff back at some point.
Right.
If you remember the Bizarre Bazaars Spedigue used to run, that was like Bizarre stuff that would like sit around for half the funds for Bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely. Marky Battle Bassett has joined us and said Mordheim will never die.
Probably won't.
I just want to clear something up as well. Scott Radham says, guys, Inquisitor sucked. It's the worst rules lawyering bits of an RPG slammed into the need for uniquely crafted out-of-scale tabletops. It sucked from cradle to grave, bruh. Cool minis, though.
The funny thing is, I could see like I think a case being made for bringing back the Inquisitor models just as art pieces.
Sure.
They did for a while.
Yeah.
Say, Scott, nothing that you have said there is wrong. Let's move along.
It was, however, one of the most. It was a beautiful book. It was a beautifully illustrated book.
The tough part is with making some large out of scale minis, whatever size they would be, if they're complete miniatures, like with feet standing on a base or lifted on a tactical rock or whatever, people are going to want a game.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're looking at something you want to paint, just make it a half, make it a bust.
Yeah.
A bust.
Chop the legs off. Yep.
I've actually, I think it was like 2017. I was working with somebody, actually that pitched a range of 40K busts to GW licensing. I think they were still like, maybe that's something we'll do, or it's miniatures. It's kind of a little bit too close to what we do.
And then Todd McFarlane came along with a truckload of money and said, but what if we just made action figures and had them in Walmart?
Yeah.
And you could paint those too. Here's some ones you can paint.
And then Joy Toy was like, I see what you're doing, Todd. We're going to do better versions.
That's right. And Joy Toy was, but what if they were this big?
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, just in pushback to what Scott said, because I know you said we can't talk about this anymore, is without Inquisitor, we don't have the Eisenhorn trilogy. And that means without Inquisitor, we don't have Modern 40K. Because most of what made Black Library successful and have it continue as a project was the success of the Eisenhorn trilogy, where they were selling more books than they ever thought they would sell, basically, of that one particular trilogy.
And again, it all comes back to Dan Abnett.
As most things do.
Modern Games Workshop exists because of Jess Goodwin and Dan Abnett.
Yeah, basically, and John Blanche.
Yep.
Fantastic. Tori asks, Ash, do you think you'd ever try writing your own Mordheim supplement or campaign?
I did, actually, and I submitted it to Citadel Journal, and it was rejected for being too depressing. So I wrote, I still have it somewhere. It was on a GeoCities site for a while because I was like, well, fuck you, I'm just gonna publish it myself. But it was called, so it was another human mercenaries group, but it was, instead of being like Reichlanders, Averlanders, whatever stage, it was Mordheimers. And so Mordheimers are basically the insane survivors of Mordheim. So you could actually have the locals as a warband. And the Youngbloods were orphans. The champions were, I think it was Doomsayers. And then the Prophet of the Comet was the leader, basically. And they were just people who like refused to leave the city, who'd all lost their minds and were slowly going insane, and like had a little bit of like the possessed warband traits where they could have mutations and stuff because they're living, surrounded by warpstone. But then a little bit of like the Sigmarite stuff too, where they had like a faith healer and a prophet and a bunch of like flagellant stuff going on as well. But the background blurbs I wrote for them, because I'm like what, 1920 when I wrote this thing, are incredibly edgy, like Crow makeup unironically edgy, like Sting and WCW edgy.
Nice.
It was a lot.
I got like GWK4, and they're like, this is in fact too grim and too dark.
Yeah. There was no levity. There's no levity at all. I was like, I'm going to take this to the logical conclusion. But I did write that. I wrote a supplement for Mordheim that was basically, what if you were one of the few survivors living in Mordheim that didn't get like turned into like a sentient painting, or like sucked into a green mist, or was like the ghost that haunted some house or some inn.
See, you just had to sprinkle in a little bit of Caiaphas Cain and you would have been all set.
A little bit of humor. Yeah, I just had to have something like the Laughing Man, or some kind of like a weird like dramatic personate. I wrote a dramatic personate too, actually. Yeah, the Laughing Man. But that's a story for another time.
You'll have to dig that out and send it off to Tori at Broheim.
Yeah, he wants
sure. Tori, but Broheim, I should send it to him. Yeah, that was a classic. Yeah, that was a classic. Excellent. I have to find the DVD-R that it's probably still saved on.
Marky Bassett says we had an 8-player Mordheim Games Day last Saturday for Halloween in Bedford, UK.
Nice.
Beautiful. We also have a Mordheim campaign with 10 players playing regularly. Nice.
That's beautiful. Yeah, Mordheim campaigns are funny because they are as good as their organizer, because typically what happens in every Mordheim campaign is there's a runaway gang and there's like a get stepped on gang. And you have to have someone manage that, like narratively, so that nobody has a bad time. Mordheim's kind of like a party where everybody doesn't know each other, and the person throwing the party has to make sure everybody's having fun.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, I'm actually super excited. In just over a week, or just under 2 weeks, I'm heading to Houston to play in an Inquisitor 28 campaign.
Oh yeah,
nice
weekend. The Vastarian campaign, which has been run by the Weir brothers, one of whom I play with fairly regularly.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's gonna be very cool. But it is that kind of thing. It's gonna be a whole bunch of people that I know their stuff from Instagram. I've never met them in person before, and I'm taking these guys along.
Yeah. You're gonna be the only one that doesn't use a superhero name because they'll all be referring to themselves by their Instagram handles. You'll be like, "I'm Dave Taylor."
I'm Dave.
That's always the awkward thing when you meet those people in person and they're telling you like whatever their Instagram name is. And you're like, "Oh, we're doing superhero names." Okay, so I don't do superhero names.
With the 28 book that I'm working on, it was like, oh, I've got to get in touch with that guy and see if I can get those 5 photos.
Yeah.
Okay, Jimmy Henriksen. Let me look him up on Instagram, try and track him down through there. Oh, he's the Phoenician. Oh, that's great because I know that he's going to be at that campaign weekend. He's flying from like Norway to Sweden,
nice, crazy
Houston to play, and it's like, okay, that's kind of crazy. Excellent. Now I will meet all these people.
Dave Taylor is his superhero name.
I know. That's it. That's the thing. It's like eventually you transcend that thing, right? You don't have to have a superhero name.
Yeah.
You have to have a herd. The herd's not what's important.
No, not at all. Excellent. Scott says, Ash, I guarantee if you ask your game writing boys to toss together a quick little Mordheim article, like the Frostgrave compilation, you could get something special put together.
Oh, like a Wizards Conclave? I could definitely do that. Yeah, we could do like a Wizards Conclave for Mordheim. That'd be fun. We should do something like that. I'll talk to the guy. Yeah, it's not a bad idea actually. Doing like a Damned25 like best of sort of like thing, some type of collection. Wizards Conclave was fun because it was like that. It was a concept album. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of people that didn't know each other writing scenarios to put in a book, and Joe just kind of pulled us all together. So that's actually a cool idea.
Right. Nice. Good work there, Scott. Sometimes if you read enough of Scott's comments, one of them's going to stick.
Well, it's just going to pop out. That's it. Yeah. He can be wrong about 60% of things. 40% sticks.
Yep. All good. All good. Nice. I think I had when we were looking at these photos, there was another one. Yeah.
So some of my buddies' armies, I think, are in there too. So that's Chase's Undead Warbands, which I love because it's got the Talisman it's a Talisman Grey Wizard.
Yep.
Metal, I'm pretty sure those are Ghouls. Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
Just like from the classic figures. A plastic direwolf. Oh my God, those goblin
ghouls are
so they're goblin wolves.
Those are Paul Muller.
Oh, they were Paul Muller. That's right. Yeah. Yep. I love those ghouls. And then the old plastic zombie kit. And Vlad von Karstein.
Yeah, so that's old school lad.
I think the only actual Mordheim miniature in there is the Necromancer, because that's the Necromancer from the box set. And then his young bloods are his dregs. So he's got some Reichland young bloods in there too. But he did a great job. He understood the assignment for sure. The Talisman Grey Wizard, I think, is my favorite miniature in that whole collection, though. And then the next one was my Skaven.
Yep.
And that is, I think I have a complete set of every Metal Mordheim miniature. One of the last things I did before they got rid of all the special skin stuff at Workshop was I just ordered one of everything. I was just like, just give me one of all of it because I'm going to want it all someday. So I painted up my metal, the plastic clan rats in the back there, and then the metal Black Skaven and Assassin with the Weaving Blades, the Sorcerer, the two whatchamacallits, Gutter Runners too. Because I just love those miniatures. And then the other stuff, the Marienburgers, were my friend Jordan's Marienburger, and he's got all the medals and stuff too. But I think you see them on the right hand side. I don't think I actually sent you a photo.
Yeah, the guy with the iPad.
You did it. That's the next one I've got. But before we switch to that one, I just wanted to ask you, is this the sorcerer here with the banner?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
He's got a big killamajig. Yeah, he was only available, so he didn't come in the box. There was a box that was basically the 5 heroes and then 1 sprue of the clan rats. So I think it was 5 plastic clan rats, and it was, you got exactly those 2 night runners, exactly those 2. Oh no, one of those Black Skaven is actually just an Eshin assassin. He's like a 6th edition Eshin assassin in the back there. But then the sorcerer I think was only available through Trolls. Through Trolls, baby, the original mail order from Games Workshop, 1888 GW Troll. I don't know where that number goes today, but you should all call it right now and just ask for miniatures and see what happens.
All the models.
That's right. Yeah. I wonder if it's still connected. That'd be great.
I think it's just John Matthews' cell phone number.
It just goes to Matthews. It just goes to Battlefront. He's like, I'll sell you all the trolls. That would make me laugh. Yeah, those are Jordan's Marienburgers. You can see Jordan's a veteran of Mordheim, even though he's significantly younger than me. in that he's been abused during Mordheim campaign. So everything he does is like optimized. He's got like crossbow with swords. He's got some like bows on all of his heroes. It's a real classic thing. The only thing is those are Army Painter resin bases that those things are on. They got discontinued when Warhammer Fantasy Battle got canceled, and he made me hunt down about 20 more of them so he could finish that warband because he didn't have enough. He had a panic when he couldn't get those bases anymore because those are resin Army Painter bases. He did a great job painting those though. Those Marienburgers.
Nice.
I don't know what else I sent you. I think they're Army Painter resin bases. Yeah, old.
I didn't realize that they did resin bases at any point, but
ancient, like 10, 15 years ago, probably.
Right. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. One of the stories I told when we had Tori on, we were talking about Marienburg.
Mm-hmm.
Was my buddy Glenn Robinson. I don't know if you know Glenn at all.
No, I don't think so.
He worked for GW for a good chunk of time. But in like 96, 97, we were working on we started working on a game called Marienburg. And it was about like warbands sort of prowling around Marienburg.
Oh no. It was like Venice though, because it would be Marienburg. So it'd be like the gangs of Venice, basically.
It was that kind of thing. There was a lot of there was like political intrigue and
skullduggery. Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And we were getting pretty close to like wanting to go like present it to the studio, and they went, "Hey, check out this new game we've got coming out." And we're like, "Bugger."
Yeah, that White Dwarf showed up with the first issue of Mordheim in it, and you're like, "Oh no, oh no!" It's funny because Mordheim does have the distinction of being one of the last games to publish for free in White Dwarf,
right?
Because the original 6 warbands and all the core rules, and even the campaign system, minus the exploration rules, were all free over 5-6 issues of White Dwarf, and that was interesting because that was the year before the game came out. You could already play the game. And that was one of the reasons I was so excited about it, was I'd already converted up a bunch of like Empire miniatures to play Mordheim. I was playing Mordheim before the box set even came out.
Right.
My original leader for my Mindenheimers was actually a high elf white lion with a sculpted wolf head instead of a lion head on the back, and then an Empire captain's head, like glued onto it basically with a halberd.
No. So that was the first, the first appearance of Town Crier.
Mm-hmm.
It's how they presented the rules for it.
No, it was in White Dwarf.
No, in White Dwarf, like it was presented as a section.
Oh, as Town Crier. Yes. Yeah, as a section of Town Crier. Yeah. The logo wasn't even done.
Was Mordheim the first mini game that added height?
Like elevation, Necromunda had that already, because Necromunda had the card stock, like the bulkheads and the card stock stuff that really added a lot of elevation and climbing, and there was jump tests in Necromunda. There's hiding in Necromunda. All the stuff, like functionally, because of the big like second edition divergence in the way hand to hand worked in Necromunda, the games were still kind of the same except for that one element. And when they made Mordheim, they basically just added a bunch of the Necromunda sort of like core mechanics to how you played Warhammer. And what was interesting was then in Gorka Morka, they kind of pulled a bunch of Warhammer mechanics back into the 40K rules, and you had like a prototype of 3rd edition 40K in Gorka Morka. It was weird how they kind of went back and forth. Necromunda was 2nd edition 40K, and then Gorka Morka was proto 3rd edition 40K, and then Mordheim had a bunch of stuff from Necromunda lifted into it. So it's interesting because I do think back then everybody was kind of just like, well, who has the best idea? Because it's all one studio.
Right.
There's not multiple teams designing a singular product, and they're all siloed. It was one big design team, and there's like team leads, but then everyone would come together to like add manpower to the individual products. You had all these ideas that kind of cross-pollinated across the different game systems.
Yep. Absolutely. I can remember playing games of Necromunda where my favorite model, 8-ball, or guy with a shotgun, like that, ended up taking a lot of hits to the legs.
It's getting kneecapped.
Yeah. So when I deploy, I basically just find a nice high spot with sort of 2 ramps approaching him.
Yeah.
Prop him up against the wall and just let him stand there.
He's doing his thing where he's just hiding against the wall the whole time. He was the best photograph miniature, that Perry Orlock, because he always looked like he was literally hugging a wall. They would have some terrible thing like sneaking around next to him. I think my favorite White Dwarf article was it came from the sump, and it had like a lictor or a gene steal or something like that coming around the corner of a bulkhead, and he was like hiding behind it with a shotgun. Like I always looked like he was in trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
You're like, don't miss. You're gonna have 1 shot. Don't miss.
Yeah.
But the great thing with the shotgun and the people like running along gantries with no railings.
That's right. Yeah, you make your initiative test, you fall off.
Yep.
To be like, ah! That was why you had to have there was a piece of kit for that. What was it? The grappling hook or something like there was a clip harness. It was a clip harness because when you're up high on a gantry, you would clip yourself to the gantry so you couldn't get knocked off. It was like the thing that painters have when they're painting the side of a building.
Right.
So you would like clip harness yourself to the side of the tower basically so you didn't fall off immediately.
And you didn't clip it to a rusty piece.
Yeah, I hope that didn't fail. Exactly. Yeah. And get spooked and just fall off. Yeah, and so I think again, and that's the cinema of that era's games that I think made them memorable enough that when people play them today, it does feel like it's kind of the missing ingredient in modern wargaming. And generationally speaking, I think it's the thing that we're losing as more and more modern game designers come from a childhood or foundational experience more driven by video games and this concept of fairness, as opposed to being more driven by RPGs and pen and paper and like theater of the mind games, where the little movie playing out in front of you is what the rules are supporting versus the outcome of the dice rolls and the fairness of the game being what the rules are supporting. I think that's where Mordheim kind of remains special, because no one cared who won and lost the game in Mordheim. You wanted to see what happened when you went back to your base and you explored, right. And you know what I mean? Like you made your exploration roll, and does someone get thrown in a fighting pit? Does somebody go insane? You know, like all the things that can happen even just on the injury table. There's whole stories that would like play out with your characters.
Does your leader bleed out before you can get him back?
Yeah. Well, I like Gorka Morka, for instance. Jay and I just recently did Gorka Morka. That was actually that's another of the list of games that we did just before I did the studio run about a year and a half ago. Was Jay and I did Jay Griffiths did a Gorka Morka replay and redid all the. We used current contemporary miniatures. I had a few classic miniatures like sprinkled in, but I think my leader had a whole story where he got injured, then lost a point of leadership, and had to fight the entire gang like back to back to back to like reassert his dominance as the knob. And every game basically from then on, as soon as he finished fighting the rival orc gang, he had to go back to Mechtown and fight the rest of his gang in a fighting pit just to like stay in charge until somebody else beat him, basically took over the gang. I had the like that campaign flamed out when I literally didn't have any models left. I had like 2 people left. No one could even drive my truck. I had no truck. I had no vehicle for anybody to get into because my truck was destroyed. My leader was killed by his own gang, and like everyone had died. It was the perfect ending to a Gorka Morka campaign. It was absolute chaos.
Excellent.
But incredibly memorable. And it's funny because I do think that's probably one of the reasons for Mordheim's longevity is stuff like that can happen that just can't happen in modern war games, where it's a lot more clinical and it's a lot more like even like the way games are played today with like tournament terrain where it has the terrain has preset positions.
Yeah.
And there's all this like visual battlefield information, like scoring zones and stuff like that. It feels more like you're doing you're manually playing StarCraft than it does that a story is happening in front of you. There's no motivation for your generals. There's no story enacting. Everything is symmetrical as opposed to having like attacker defender missions and stuff. So you're less thinking on your feet and you're more replaying the same simulation over and over again against a different opponent.
I want to, for years I've talked about how I want to do a big 40K tournament and I want to run the Phoenix Island campaign that's out of the back of like 3rd or 4th edition rulebook and just run that. Because that campaign was designed really well. So it was like, if you win, then this. If you lose, then this. Like, so it mattered. Like, I always enjoy narrative gameplay. It's part of the reason why when I watch people playing at tournaments now, and they have, like you said, they have the big circular mouse pads all over the place, and there's like tokens everywhere. And I just want to be like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like I don't know what's happening here, but this is not how miniature wargaming is supposed to be.
Well, but it is. That's the thing, is that makes us anachronisms though, because to a generation of gamers, that is how it's supposed to be. Like I'm not saying that, I'm not going to put a value judgment on though, Jake, because that's what they want from their experience, and Games Workshop's delivering it to them.
Well, to be fair, like that's basically the experience I've mostly had.
Yeah,
because I came to this a lot later than most people my age.
Yeah, and honestly, if I was to be totally frank, I think it's my generation at Games Workshop's fault, because the tournament scene was the iconoclast position inside Games Workshop at the time, and promoting it at Games Workshop felt kind of rebellious. And now what's happened was a generation of customers have grown up and been hired into Games Workshop, and they're just importing their experience and their what they want, which was the stuff that we were sideline promoting and like running tournaments for and running events for and saying was important. They've just become the people working for Games Workshop now, and they're delivering to the audience what the audience wants. I think the difference is we feel disconnected from it because it's not the experience that we had when we grew up, and it was actively being discouraged by the people at Games Workshop at the time who were like, no, it's imagination games. It's not serious. Don't take it so seriously. Like it's just, you can never get it right. You can never balance it. I think there's some truth there, because I do think that the pursuit of perfection is the enemy of the good. And that's why you end up with these endless cycles of chasing people's complaints, basically. Right. Whereas Mordheim, no one complains about the fact that Mordheim's in balance, because everyone just at the outset knows it's not supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah. Like
I always find, I think I find myself sometimes like straddling both camps in that when I'm putting an army together, I want to have an army that is going to tell a story, but at the same time, I don't want to have an army that is going to fail miserably because I've misread something or misunderstood the way something mechanically works.
Yeah.
Which is the most likely thing. I'm going to misunderstand something, and it's going to,
or something just got, FAQ'd while you were building the army.
That's, I think, the biggest thing is what Mike just said, Dave, is that while you're building your army, the rules change out from underneath you. That's the only inherent danger I think that exists, is for a person building and painting a 2,000 point army to a theme. They might finish that, like say
you finish it, it's 1,950 points. When
you started today for Adepticon, and by the time Adepticon rolls around, half your units don't exist in the book anymore, because that can literally just happen now. And things get changed out from underneath you. And I think that's the only danger from that. But I'm fully with you, where like I want competency, and I want everyone to be playing from the same playbook. And I think the danger of constantly chasing balance is that nothing sits still long enough for you to actually complete the physical tasks of building a 2,000 point army today. Right? It's still chasing that on even just like a 3-month basis. It takes more than 3 months if you want to like painstakingly build and paint a 2,000 point army of anything for a Games Workshop game. It's a lot of miniatures today. It's over 100 miniatures usually for most armies.
Unless you're Dave, in which case you could knock out like 6,000 points in that amount of time.
Look,
but
Dave and I could,
the rest of us are mortal.
Dave and I could both do that. but what I'm saying is, for the average consumer, Jake, for those of us not the scars of many a games day where it's like 3 a.m. and you have to have 15,000 miniatures on the table. That's a different story.
But even somebody like us who can paint that quickly, I don't game that often.
No.
So each time I play, it feels like there's sometimes a new rule set. So
that was what killed Guild Ball for me, is we played 3 consecutive games over 6 months under 3 different rule sets, and I'm out.
It'll relearn the same game over and over again. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because those are all the games, like if you look at War Machine, Guild Ball, games who've like burnt out basically and had to start over, they've all gone through that iteration of chasing, trying to make the perfect game and thinking that's what's going to make everybody happy. Whereas you have a game like Mordheim, which has been exactly the same for 25 years, and people are still just happily playing it, and no one's making any money off it, and yet people are still obsessively playing it. Like the amount of like free publicity that game gets. The one thing I will say though is it's also a game you can never remake.
Right.
I think it would be people are always saying like, just reprint Mordheim, it'll be a license to print money. And I think they could do the thing they did with the 3rd edition 40K box set a few years ago, where they just reprinted the box set itself and were like, here, take this. If they still have the cardboard assets somewhere and they could actually do that, that's the way you could do it, is just make the product available again for a limited time.
I think they do, but they only have the first misprinted version.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. As long as they can get high quality scans of it, they can make anything today.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you remade Mordheim and modernized it and tried to make it for today's audience, I think you'd kill what made it special. Right? I don't think you can recapture what made it special, because they literally made a game about premillennial tension during premillennial tension. Like
Right.
it's a, you know, like they made a game about the calendar year turning to 2000 and an apocalypse happening during a time where the entire zeitgeist was Y2K, and there's an, you know what I mean? Like it's literally a game
like
of its time for its time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You could make a Mordheim for today that isn't Mordheim. Like I think you could make if they did like a thing where they tried to mine nostalgia by getting a bunch of original, like they could do a tour where they contract hired, let's say like Thomas, Andy Chambers, Jervis, like they got the band back together for like one project, and they got a bunch of artists in, and they credited them, and they made an old school product, and they made a new thing. I don't know if they'd ever do that, like, but it would have to be a brand new thing made by the old school artists, and that's how you would make a Mordheim for today. Is you have to make a similar idea product with similar idea creators. I actually don't think the game design teams at Games Workshop today are capable of making a Mordheim. Not because they're not talented, but because the way the product gets developed today is so contiguous, whereas old school way of making product in the design studio is artist has the idea, begins writing, artists gives notes to concept artists start creating concept art goes to sculptors start sculpting. It's a line out from someone's idea to the end product. Today it's sales director says we need box of this type, packaging engages, writing engages, art engages, miniature design engages, all contiguously, and
they don't talk to each other.
And they don't talk to each other until it's done, right? And so you end up with this, like, you put it all together at the end, but it's
you end up with Warcry saying you can upgrade all your units, and no one else knows anything about it.
Yeah, you end up with first edition Warcry, which is, if you ever want a laugh, go read the boilerplate on first edition Warcry, where it describes a completely different game. Where like the copy at the beginning of the game describes like things you will be able to do as a player, and none of them exist.
It describes Mordheim warbands.
Like, it described Mordheim. Yeah, it describes probably an earlier iteration of the game that does not exist in Warcry, and
nobody went back through and sense checked it.
No one changed the copy because it was copy. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just the stuff at the beginning and the back of the book, where it's describing like finding new weapons. Your individual warriors will learn new skills and suffer grievous injuries. And
none of this happens.
None of that is in the game. There wasn't even an injury table in the game. So like I think that's if there is sort of like a missing ingredient, it's that. And if there is a thing that's maybe not possible today outside of the indie design sphere, because I think people are making Mordheims, I think they're just not Games Workshop.
Yeah. Well, I was going to mention Trench Crusade.
Yeah, they're doing great right now. I think are they over $1 million US now? I haven't been paying attention since the first day. 1.7. Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's a Trench Crusade. I will say Trench Crusade is like my Mordheimers article, though. It's a little more dark. you're not necessarily going to have Trench Crusade getting played in the game store. They definitely know what they're making.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the Kingdom Death of Mordheim games.
It's right up there with Adrian Smith's Hate.
Yes, Hate the board game. Yeah, Hate's a great comic, but it doesn't make you feel good. It's like rewatching Threads over and over again. You're like, why am I doing this to myself? I watched Threads this past week though, just to get ready for 2025. That's a reference almost no one will get that hasn't watched the BBC's greatest contribution to 80s movies. So. Yeah, I do think that there is some stuff happening out there that's very much in that theme and tone. Obviously, Thomas wrote Trench Crusade, and I think that it's going to have a lot of probably DNA of Mordheim in it. Mike Francine is a fantastic artist. I actually based all of my Last War stuff, all my Forbidden Psalm stuff and Last War stuff, and even my Sludge Army for Sean Sutter's Sludge was all based on Mike Francine's art. Back before he even started doing Trench Crusade like 5-6 years ago. He's a fantastic dark artist.
Very very much.
Yeah,
so.
I'm very excited for them. I think they're doing a project that will definitely I think tickle the itch for people that liked the darker aspects of Mordheim.
Yeah, fantastic. Jess is saying, I like that new players have a nostalgia for Mordheim when they weren't around then. There's a Welsh word, hiraeth. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Apologies to our Welsh listeners. That's a homesickness for a time or place that never really existed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's called being Canadian.
How's she going, eh?
Yeah. As a Canadian who's lived in the United States, let me tell you, the conception of what the Canada is in the United States is basically Trailer Park Boys, and it's fantastic. I've never been to the Canada. I've never been to the Canada that you guys believe exists, but I wish I lived there.
As both a hockey player and someone from the Northeast, like, to me, Canada is just politer New England. Like, it's insane. Like,
yeah.
Toronto is just Boston, but it's on a lake instead of on the ocean.
No, Toronto's not Boston. Toronto's more like Chicago.
Yeah, that's true. It's a mirror. Like, Chicago is the mirror universe version of Toronto. Like, it's Toronto with a mustache and it's evil. But like,
yes,
yeah.
But Boston's more like Nova Scotia, so it's more like Halifax.
Sure,
where everyone's real nice to each other, but you can't tell for all the screaming. We all love each other. Why are you yelling at each other like this then? Say Carhartt in Boston. It's one of my favorite things to hear people. My Carhartt.
Yes, again, I like Scott doesn't believe that I'm from Boston. I'm like, well, I went to a really good school.
Yeah, he's not from Southie.
Awesome. Cool. So for the getting back to Damned25.
As we do.
You played like a 3-game sequence with your Middenheimers.
I did.
You did
three game sequence with Middenheimers, 3-game sequence with the Skaven, 3-game sequence with the Possessed. And I have left to do before the calendar year ends. I need to do Sisters of Sigmar, Undead, and and what am I missing? Sisters of Sigmar, Undead, and I don't know. Sisters of Sigmar, Undead. Oh, Witch Hunters. Witch Hunters.
Right. Of course,
And I have to paint them too. And I have all the miniatures. I just need to paint them and have an opponent. So if anybody wants to come in and play Mordheim, let me know. You can join the GMG guest calendar. I need original opponents. You just need to have 90s to 2000s era fantasy miniatures to play Mordheim with. And I'm ready.
Let's fly Travis up there.
Travis would absolutely do it.
100%.
He's busy touring with Lash, though. I don't know if you know Lash is.
They
played a show with Chromags
all over our desk at work.
Dude, they played a show with Chromags. I was so impressed. I was like, "What are you doing there?" And he's like, "I don't know why I'm here either."
Excellent. Alan Borthwick from New Zealand said, "I thought Canada was just Letterkenny."
It also is
Letterkenny is very
parts of it is.
So it's interesting because Letterkenny is one of those things where none of this stuff ages well, because by the time you see that snapshot of Canada, it's already gone. So Letterkenny is like a mid 2000s, like 2010s version of rural Canada that now no longer exists. Just like Trailer Park Boys is like a late 90s, early 2000s version of Nova Scotia that no longer exists. Like it's all like a snap, like, and it doesn't age well, because none of the jokes or humor or time. The only one I think that will age well is Shoresy.
Yeah, I love Shoresy. I love Shoresy. Like, I'm like,
it's a love letter to hockey, not a love letter
to Canada.
Yeah.
I think it was you who described it was like that Letterkenny is a show of Canada for Americans, and Shoresy is a show of Canada for Canadians.
For Canadians, yes, 100%. Yeah.
Shoresy is my favorite. Like, as somebody who played, like, traveling hockey and has played in multiple countries, like, I love Shoresy. I'm like, yep, that's happened. Yep, that's happened. Yep, done that.
Yeah, you go to, you can't go no more. It's a funny thing how I do think there's a universality to certain stories, and Shoresy is one of those things where it could be any sport. It's just the Canadian version of Ted Lasso, basically.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Cool. So anybody who's watching, if you can make your way to St. Catharines, Ontario, between now and the end of the year, and you want to
we can play some more time. I have all the stuff to do it. I just need to throw down.
Damned25. Just shoot Ash a message via all the different socials, I guess.
Yeah, there's many ways to get the message to me.
Yep. And he'll be happy to throw down with you. Fantastic. I'd really love it if you were able to close out that sequence.
I'm halfway there. It's just the end of the thing is going to be a photo finish probably with all the other stuff that's going on.
Yeah, fantastic. Awesome. So we are at that point in the show where we start to talk about our wonderful community, the BuildPaintPlay Facebook community page. We show a whole bunch of models that make you really angry, Ash.
It's time for me to get upset. Yeah.
Are you up for another round of that?
Damn these kids learn to paint on the internet. I thought I invented dry brushing. I called it overpainting, and I went to a Games Workshop store and someone was showing it to a kid, and I was furious. I was just like, "That's my thing. That's my trick."
Nice.
It was the late '80s. What did I know?
Awesome. Let me get this keyed up.
While Dave's doing that, if anybody who's watching the show, if you guys get a chance, please like and hit the notification bell and share it and all that good stuff.
Rate and review.
Help us outsmart the algorithm.
Yeah,
it's the only way the algorithm notices. Leave even terrible comments.
Yeah,
100%.
Comments.
Whatever you need to do.
And not just comments in the chat, but once the stream ends and the video goes up, comments in that video. That's where it's at. Comments for the comment god. Awesome.
Likes for the like throne.
I was just thinking that, and I'm just like, do we have to say it? And then
one of them's going to say
it.
Fantastic. Excellent. So first up, we have Adam Weller.
This is great.
Yep.
I love all the digital tattoos.
Yeah. I think this is an interesting one because Adam's been doing a hell of a lot of work over the last 3 years or so on his lifting his painting, which is all looking fantastic. But so I want to have a chat with. I want to ask him about this one because I got to say that the tattoos, the line work is great, but the tattoo doesn't feel like a tattoo. It feels like paint on there because it's that solid black.
Yeah, it needs a little flesh tone mixed into the tattoo color to sort of soften it a little bit.
So I'd be curious to find out, is he going for a tattoo or he's going for paint?
Because my first thought was that it wasn't a tattoo. I had what was her name? Not Gamora, the other one from Guardians of the Galaxy, Nebula. Where she's like a droid. You know what I mean? Because her skin tone also is kind of like Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time, where you're not sure if she's human or not. You know what I mean? She's got a kind of droidy, androidy Mass Effect thing going on. Either way, the line work's incredible.
The etch kind of thing going through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like a Thundercat where you're like, is this a Ken doll? What is this thing? And the Thundercats take their clothes off at the beginning of the Thundercats. You're like, what are you, some kind of mannequin?
Yeah.
It's a Thundercats reference from 40 years ago. Who
doesn't love Thundercats?
The first episode of Thundercats is insane. It's super weird.
But no, she does look fantastic, Adam.
The hair, especially, actually, the glow on the hair was what really drew me in. It has a depth to it that I think, Dave, you're right. That's where you can see that the level of depth and sort of contrast in the hair, if that could be applied to the tattoo, it would sink it down if it's not meant to be an inlay.
Yeah. But no, great work, Adam. Adam also posted this guy.
Damn, Gino.
Yeah, this is insane.
It's my Halloween costume. No, I was Ned Flanders this year.
Okay, this is your Christmas.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll be me for Christmas.
You got those lovely the Harlequin pantaloons.
Yeah, and some spats. I rock some spats.
Awesome.
This model is just wacky. It's like you're like, oh, so he's a jester, and he's got a little goblin puppet, and then you're like, wait, but he also has some climbing rope and a mirror on his belt, and you're like, what is this guy up to?
He's the ventriloquist from Batman. He's just a carnival version of the ventriloquist. The saddest Batman villain, where it's just like, "What's your superpower? I'm mentally ill."
Yeah.
I feel like
That's all. That's literally.
Yeah,
it's a mentally ill karate vigilante in his pajamas fighting other mentally ill people in their pajamas.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the whole Batman described in 2 sentences.
Actually, the ventriloquist is the one who wasn't in pajamas.
Yeah,
he was like with just office attire.
Yeah. It was so sad.
Yeah.
But at least he wasn't Condiment King.
But yeah, you can see the cool blends that Adam's getting here, and
the blue is especially like you can tell how it's funny because the blue is the hair as well. You can tell how he's really mastered that depth in the blue.
Yeah,
but he's got the shimmer on the Harlequin pantaloons that you so neatly called out there as well. That kind of like stained glass effect is really nice too.
Yeah.
These are great.
Yeah, looking great, Adam. Very nice. Next up, got Alan.
Just says the puppet is Mr. Punch.
Yep,
that's right.
Punch and Judy.
I thought he was the bad guy from the second Sherlock Holmes movie.
Excellent. So yes, Alan has been painting up this guy. I've now completely forgotten who it is, but
that definitely could be Professor Moriarty.
No, I'm not him. The one that lights himself on fire. The one from the first movie. The one that like he's a Freemason and Mark Strong tricks everyone into thinking he lights him on fire. He looks exactly like that guy.
Oh yeah.
The Freemason dude who's like, no, there's no such thing as magic, and he goes to shoot him and he lights himself on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely.
What's your superpower? I am rich.
Fantastic. Alan said he's in a client meeting. He'll listen to our feedback later.
Nice.
But no, he's looking cool. A little bit more work to go on him. So I'm going to skip forward to Alan's next model. Oh, a set of models.
Oh, hell yeah.
Beauty.
He's been doing a lot of Jabberwocky dance team.
What's that?
Is this the Jabberwocky dance team?
I don't know.
These look like Batman bad guys. These look like they work for the Batman Forever Neon Lights gang. That
these to be Mr. Freeze goons.
Maybe yeah. I meant more the like weird glow light vigilantes that are living in the
in the Schumacher film.
Yeah, in the Schumacher film. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are about to get beaten up by Batgirl and Robin.
By Alicia Silverstone. Yeah. These guys are gonna get their asses kicked by Alfred's niece.
One of them's gonna have their jackets pulled over their head.
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger's gonna swoop in. Ice to see you.
That's right. Schwarzenegger with his black teeth.
But I do love these guys.
Yeah, they're great miniatures. Who are they by? Is that Cobblestone, Street Violence, or something? And I can't recognize them.
I think those are I think these are from Monster Fight Club. I think these are some of the
Cyberpunk. The Cyberpunk
gangers.
Yeah. Cyberpunk Red. Yeah.
Alan's been painting a lot of Cyberpunk Red stuff.
That would track. Yeah.
But
the neon's rad. The contrast on the purple and teal is really good.
Teal, yeah. Purple and teal, magenta and teal. It's all always.
You can't go wrong with those two. They just work.
I feel like the boots are done. Those are Timberlands. Those are done.
Right. Yeah. Yep. He just needs to base them, and he's good. But no, they look cool. I love that, particularly the work on the on that symbol on their back there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice work. Good one, Alan. Fantastic. Chris Gorka.
Hell yeah.
Chris Gorka's taking a break from painting minis and painting some terrain.
That Vulgus train paints up so easy. I love that Vulgus train because that's only like 5 pieces too. That was my favorite thing about that train was it went together in about 5 minutes and I didn't need any instructions.
This is from the
Hivestorm. Yeah, the Hivestorm box. That's the Hivestorm Vulgus. It's one of the 2 stronghold pieces.
Cool. Yeah. There's
nice.
Where are these bits? Are these bits from previous?
No, it's all Hivestorm.
It's
all the Hivestorm box. Yeah.
Cool.
You get 2 strongholds, 2 ruins, and then 2 little like sidey bits.
Okay. Nice. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have a Hivestorm at all, but Hank recently sent me some of the Tempesta skies and the Vespid scenes.
Yeah, they're nice.
Unfortunately,
Those
didn't
vests
send
look
the
so nice.
terrain because it's all being painted up for Adepticon next year.
Gotcha.
I'm sure I'll be painting some of it in January at Spray Team.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking really good. And of course, this one is kind of not Chris Gorka style. I guess it's sort of all desaturated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I saw this photo, I was like, oh yeah, there we go. That's Chris.
There's the contrast. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got that bright saturation. But yeah, looking good. Nice work, Chris. Chris Kemmett started on his Mechanicum.
Nice.
30K.
Those not being resin is the greatest thing ever. Because in resin, those were an absolute nightmare. Shattered ankles.
I like the polished chrome like sensor cover on his head.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think
I
go for it, Ash. Go for it.
I was gonna say I like that it looks weathered. I like that it looks lived in. Like it's the Mechanicum stuff I think really benefits from that like classic military paint style where you have some weathering, a little bit of grit to it. You know, the tank only is ever clean when it comes off the assembly line kind of mentality. And he's really nailed that. It's nice and the Horse Heresy stuff I think benefits more from the less fantastical paint jobs. And this is really capturing that.
Yeah. One of the when he posted this, Chris was asked after some sort of feedback. He was like, "I think it's still missing something," and I would say that we should. Well, I didn't say it because I wanted to save it for tonight, but Chris, I think you always need to put the base on it, have the base that you want to have on there, and that's the point where you go, "Okay, I think it's missing something. What else does it need?"
Yeah,
because we can make all
the base
sorts
can
of
make it pop.
suggestions. Yeah, the base doesn't match with what the suggestions are. It's like everybody's wasted their time.
Yeah, and you can do a lot to like if you think the colors are too samey or like you're too desaturated or whatever, you can make a miniature really pop by having a base that strongly contrasts the model. So like if you're doing like one of my favorite things is when I have like a very like monotone army, like my Raven Guard army in the Horse Heresy is very monotone because they're black. You know, like, it's not like black and white. There's not a lot you can do to add a ton of like variation and detail. So I did them on these like rich red Martian bases. And weathered them up the knee a little bit with that same red. And that
some red pigment powder just matching the base.
Exactly, that warm and cold basically balanced itself out and made it pop. So once you add the base, I think you'll have more idea where you want to go with that.
Yeah. I think
Buddy said on this, he thinks this model looks like a surprised Crabman. And now once you see it, you can't not see it.
Like now it's I absolutely see it.
He's
now.
Screaming. He's just like, ah!
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
I will never not see that now. Okay.
Yeah. I use the mouth screaming. He's got the two little teeth, which is the reflection. Yeah. Oh no!
That is funny. Thanks. You just spoiled it for me.
Yelling at SpongeBob.
Yeah, we will never look at that model right
SpongeBob! I like money.
Oh my god. Yep, moving right along.
Speaking of which, there we go. Those are the not Mordheim printing thing. What are they called?
They're from
one of those miniatures.
Bombshell miniatures.
Yeah, those are great.
But yeah, they do look fantastic. So Dave got these from the Kickstarter that Patrick ran earlier this year.
Nice.
Printed them out. But yeah, looking really nice. I think
just coming back to the last point, like beautiful contrast in the base, right? And
there's
a couple places where they kind of pull that color up into the model a little bit, but
yep.
Yeah, these are cool.
Yeah, you can see.
And that's kind of thing. Like if you looked at that model without the base, they are much more kind of flat, not quite monotone, but like it really does a lot to service them.
Gotta love that thick sister in the middle, like with that hammer she's about to crush some fools with.
Oh yeah.
She's
gonna start with the mask on because I would call her Destro.
Nice.
It's the Destro sister. Sisters of Destro.
So that's the lady on the right there.
Yep.
But, so that's the latest model that Dave's painted up.
Nice.
But looking great there, Dave.
Yeah, those are fantastic. Nice work on the metallics too. It's hard to make metallics have like that worn lived-in feel sometimes when the surfaces are all smooth, but especially on the breastplate there on the matriarch in the middle. There's a nice kind of gradient from the top to the bottom.
Yeah.
That's good.
Beautiful there. You can almost feel like there's a reflection.
Yep, exactly.
Right,
yep.
And like a gray sky as well. But no, looking great, Dave. Nice work. Next up, Hank. They at Hank's place this weekend. They had the Lord of the Rings spray team. This was the first time I think we painted Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, like ruins of Osgiliath on the right and a Rohan building on the left.
Yep.
Nice.
That Rohan stuff is crazy.
Yeah, this is so these are all 3D printed. No doubt. Hank
Storm something. I think I know the company those are from. Storm something. Storm.
Yeah,
Something.
I'm not sure. I don't think Hank mentioned it. If he's still in the chat, he can let us know. Piece on the left is kind of reminiscent of Weathertop.
Amonfell, yeah. Or Amon-Sewell.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah.
Amonfell? I don't know.
I think it's Amon-Sewell. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think Amon-Sewell, yeah. Remember when we had to paint 100 of those? Remember we had to paint 100 of those from Forge World? Yeah. Oh my god, I had to paint so many of those. Every Games Workshop store had one in 2001.
Yep. Absolute madness. But yes, so I think Hank was saying that so we had, I think there were about 6 or 7 folks there painting stuff up. They painted up terrain for 16 Lord of the Rings tables.
That's rad.
At so for Adepticon next year, I think there's still some more to go, but yeah, looking really good.
Pretty boss, yeah.
Excellent.
Whoa! Speaking of which,
so some more
crabs.
Alex?
Look at those crabs.
Fortunately, this one
and
with
they're red this time.
Yeah, with the red crabs, yeah, for sure. They've been
this army is crawling with crabs.
But yeah, I think not having that glossy face plate is helping me with.
Not helping me. I still see it. They all just look like crabs. I just see the crabs.
These are just less surprised.
Yeah,
it's all right. But no, Sulin's done an awesome job on these. He's painting these up for a commission. But yeah, I love the micro detailing, the micro damage it's on the armor plates there.
Yeah, the base is nice and subtle too.
Yeah.
Stormcrow scenery, is that who you're thinking of?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, probably right. But yeah, beautiful work there, Sulin.
Red metallic and that like super fine damage. Is that a glow too in that middle weapon? Was it kind of a base glow there?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did like the heat
damage. Yeah, heat damage.
That looks really cool.
Go through there. And then the glow on the plasma.
The plasma glow too, yeah.
But no, I do like these. They look great.
Again, that sort of like, even though it's a bright color, it has that kind of militaristic sort of paint style that, you know, that's the Horus Heresy trademark where it's like, no, this was basically when 40K was Star Trek.
You're like, what is this squad's objective? They're trying to find a man who lives in a pineapple under the sea.
Oh, stop it. Stop. But these look great. Great, Sulan. Nice work. James Broadbent.
I love that miniature.
Nice.
Cool boys.
Speaking of Master Blaster,
dude, GW
who runs Bartertown?
GW loves this now. They're all about like seriously. Somebody was like, dude, you know what I love? Bartertown, because there's this guy, and then there's the guy that Dave's gonna show. There's the guy on the ogre.
Yeah, they've done so many. There's so many Master Blaster miniatures from Workshop right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, there you go.
There he is. Yep. I love that miniature. It's funny because if they did some type of warband game in Hammer Hall or something like that for Age of Sigmar, you see the potential in those Cities of Sigmar miniatures for like a Mordheim. You know what I mean? Look, that kind of Paul Bonnery fantasy soldier look that they captured in there is fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. But no, I think this guy's great. I love the I guess that's blood around the mouth.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. That beast has been feasting. But yeah.
Strawberry jam.
What's that?
Strawberry jam.
It's funny because I do think that those like that whole model line, the Cruel Boys in particular, they benefit from a more messy old school paint job.
Yeah.
Because they're designed to be these inaccurate, like these messy throwback miniatures. Like they're all based upon pre Kev Walker orcs from Citadel. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
a lot of the
right.
design throwbacks are back to like the goblinoids era of like C series orcs. And I love that aesthetic. So that paint job really takes me back because like that could be straight out of like a like a late 80s, early 90s fantasy book.
Yeah.
Of course, it would have to have a goblin green base, but
No, we're not back then. That's pre-Goblin Green bases, even.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
back when
yeah,
they were.
yeah.
That's
That's
back when
it.
bases were everywhere.
Pre-slaughter bases, right?
Yeah, you'd be on hex bases back then. You know what I mean? You have your fantasy miniatures on hex bases for God knows what reason. Like they just randomly came with hex bases.
Excellent. But yeah, nice one.
yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, that James.
Cool thing.
Ooh, speaking of Inquisitor,
Speaking of Eisenhorn,
it's Trigger Scott.
Jeff did said this is such a weird photo. Like his feet are in focus, and then everything else is out of focus.
well, yeah, it is bizarre. Yeah, the head there is out of focus.
Like literally, like his feet are the focal point, and then the further you move away from his feet, the more out of focus it gets.
It might be because he shot it further away and then cropped it in, which is one of
Yeah,
the tricks
yeah.
for doing cell phone photography because it doesn't know to recognize it as a face. Although I found that modern cell phones are actually really good at discovering a miniature's face
Yeah.
and like locking in on it weirdly.
It-
It doesn't do it for Space Marines though because they don't know what a Space Marine face is.
I think the tough part is that the angle that he's probably taken it from, the face was the closest thing to the camera,
Yeah,
but it's
Yeah.
so it's focusing on the bulk of the model,
Yeah.
rather than on that face.
yeah. So I was gonna say his knees and his hips are also fairly in focus. Same with the gun.
And
Whatever
the
focal
start
length
of
is
the
like
back
right there.
is
Yeah,
also in
yeah.
So it's like we learned last week. He should have switched this to landscape mode, taking the photo.
But otherwise, paint job wise, I think looking good there, Jeff.
Yeah,
Eisenhower,
Jeff's
baby.
great.
He's
Jeff's
right
a
on the
great
cover of the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Looks like he's going to betray his best friend and put a demon in him.
Whoa, allegedly.
Well,
Well,
it's
he was
definitely-
really his best
it's
friend.
fishing. He mean he thought he was his best friend.
Oh,
fishing
I was going back
fishing
to-
thought Eisenhorn was his best friend. That's why he became a drunk and tried to save him.
before then. I was going to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one before that.
No, the one before that. Yeah.
It was just
Well,
the annoying. Well, sorry, before
he
that.
puts demons in a lot of his friends. I'm pretty sure he puts one in Amos at some point too when he's fighting a Titan. Like it gets real sporty with putting demons in
To be
friends.
fair, Amos kind of puts
Volunteered. Yeah.
he puts
That's
one in
true.
himself. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy that we know every moment of those books 25 years later?
So good.
Like, I read those books more than half my life ago.
I listened to those about 3 months ago. So
That's fair. I read them about once every 3
that's my
years anyway.
excuse.
That's fair.
But no, awesome, Jeff. Nice one. And Jeff has also painted up these two.
Nice.
So
Cool.
the, I can't remember what the character names are for these.
Well, they're the towns in the
Valyria
Empire,
and
so-
something in Valyria. It's like
Yeah.
Maximo and Valyria or something like that.
Yeah.
I have the combat card for them. I was just using it today.
Nice.
His gold is so vibrant that she looks like she's flesh color.
Right.
Like I know
Trade-
she's wearing bronze, but like because the gold is so brassy,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pulling it up on combat cards because now it's going to bother me. It's like something in Valyria. Johnny Stabs in Valyria.
Johnny's
Johnny stabs.
Look, Johnny Stabs doesn't mess
Stabby big
around.
stab face.
Stabby Staverson.
yeah.
Their names are
Yep.
not present on my app.
Their
No, I found it.
names
They are
are
Alea and Valerian. Alea and Valerian. Talons of the Emperor.
Cool.
With his wicked
just-
pompadour.
Bases are cool too. They are very cool bases.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I love that that sculptor work.
I think one of the most like talking about weird, like crazy stuff that GW does. I love the concept of the Guardian Spear. It is so wildly impractical. You're like, what is it? You're like, it's a bolter on a stick.
Well, it's them deck-tupling down 10 editions later on a drawing from the Rogue Trader book of a dude with no shirt in like a loincloth and a weird helmet standing in front of the Golden Throne. Like, think about how long ago they've 10 times doubled down on that. And like, no, these are the guys that guard the Emperor. For real, these guys? Yeah, they got a kill a jig with a gun on it.
Excellent.
Oh man.
Awesome.
It always feels like a landscaping tool to me. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
the Guardian Spear.
yeah, for sure. So Jeremy Waltman, probably his first post today. Do you know Jeremy, Jake?
I don't know. If I saw him, maybe.
Okay. We put up a so in the group he put up a link to a YouTube video for this massive piece of tank terrain that he is doing for Warzone Eternal.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say it's a Bauhaus tank. That's
Yeah,
the
it's a Grizzly.
Yeah.
What was that? It was the Epic Grizzly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say I had one of those from Armorcast years ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
like-
it is the Grizzly.
He-
Yeah.
He posted on Facebook. He posted the finished picture, and the Grizzly is just terrain because like the guys are like they're like half the size of the barrel. They're half the width of that barrel.
Yeah, dude, that thing is insane. It was like a Capital Imperialis in 40K. Like it was just this enormous moving fortress, basically.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's so
you can
funny.
head to the Build Paint Play Facebook group or Build Paint Play community Facebook group and
See
check out the
Grizzly.
link to Jeremy's video about building this as a piece of terrain for
Yeah, it is.
As soon as I
insane.
saw the treads, I knew what it was.
Yeah.
That's so funny. It was either that or it was Bonaparte from Dominion Tank Police, because that's what
Yeah,
the Grizzly
it's
was
based.
on.
Apparently, the Grizzly is based on that like Japanese anime
Yeah,
tank.
it's Bonaparte. It's based on
Yeah.
Bonaparte, which is a Dominion Tank Police tank.
excellent.
So the best part about this is the coax gun, the barrel on the right, the little one. That's bigger than like the Rogel Dorn tank's main gun. Like
The thing's enormous.
It's insane. Excellent. Nice one, Jeremy. John Steining has been back to painting up a bunch of epic Italian.
Monster scale. Look at that.
So these are for the so I think these are like 13 millimeter. But it's
Mhm.
scale for the epic battles from Warlord Games. So these are Italian allies to his, or they can fight for the Romans or the Carthaginians.
Right.
he's
That's
like, here's 300 guys. Here's 300 spearmen.
Yeah. But no, John's done a great job on these.
Those are good.
Look really cool. Thanks.
I like the mixed turf too, right? Instead of just using one kind of turf, he's like mixed in some dark and light turf. I think that adds a lot.
Yeah.
Makes it a little more realistic.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, looking really good there, John. Excellent. And Stephen Reiner's joined us for the end of the show. Hi, Steve. And Josh is here as well. He said he's working a crazy, awful project this week. That doesn't sound good.
No,
Ooh. Sorry,
aren't we all?
Oh, and awesome, looking great. Justin has been working on this piece. He has got the
Cool shadow box.
yeah. He's been messing around with sort of getting the those different elements in the background.
Yeah.
Set up the way that he wants them. So he's finally got the arrangement and depth that he wants. So I think the next step is to paint the mini.
Cool.
Which would be great. But yeah, looking really good. Along nicely. But if you check out on the Facebook group again, it has a quick video so we can see the depth of those pieces in the backdrop.
It reminds me a little bit of those old. They're installed in Warhammer World now, but those old 2D like Battle of Hellfen. Remember all those old workshop dioramas? Remember where there was like a John Blanche would like paint a backdrop and then have like a bunch of miniatures in the foreground? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love seeing that come back.
like the late 80s kind of,
Mhm.
or mid to late 80s sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Roman does those too.
What's that?
He's done a couple of those little like old school vignettes with like the
Yeah.
background.
With like a matte painting in the background.
Yeah.
But looking great. Nice one.
Quicksilver.
Nice.
Yep.
I was gonna quiz Dave. Every time a superhero comes out, I'm like, "Who's this, Dave?"
Well, this is Quicksilver.
They're very
Nice.
good.
Good job, Dave. Good job.
Well, last week Kelly had painted up Scarlet Witch. So, of course, Quicksilver had to be next.
Who's
That makes
So
sense.
Dave, here we go. Who's Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch's dad?
Robert Downey Jr.
No.
No, it's Michael Fassbender. It's Gandalf.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Either
Yeah,
one
it's
of them.
Gandalf. It is.
Oh,
It's Gandalf.
so
It's
he's-
either Michael Fassbender or Gandalf, depending upon what continuance you're in.
Okay, really? I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I have learned something new today. Thank you very much.
They're both scumbags.
But no, it looks fantastic, Kelly. Really nice work. I think
The flames are really nice too. He did the flames the right way, where they're hotter at the bottom.
Yeah.
A lot of people get that wrong when they do the flames. They're brighter at the top, and they're always darker at the top. They're brighter at the bottom.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Those are fire backwards.
But yeah, Kelly's got some other great shots of this as well. So you can see the basically there's that scene. Which of the
The Annie Lennox music scene, or the
yeah
the Annie Lennox where the X Mansion's exploding.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah. That's one of the two best scenes. Yeah.
runs around the
Yeah. Saving everyone in the X Mansion. Yeah.
things that are exploding. Yeah, looks great. But no, nice work, Kelly. Looking forward to seeing who you come up with next week. Luis finished painting up his.
Oh, look at that cape. Okay, now I'm furious. Look at that cape. Everyone look at that cape and tell me that was done by a mortal human.
It was done by
I hate
Luis.
Luis, I'm furious at you.
It was in Boston.
Luis came over from scale modeling. He's a scale modeler who's got into Warhammer.
Doesn't make me
And,
less angry.
He does all of his work in sub-assemblies, Jake. So
Yep.
all of this was done in. So I think this model was done in about 9 pieces.
Ugh.
But it's what he's used to doing, working on Gundams and scale models.
Paint individual fingers on Gundams. Yeah.
So he posted some images. So he sort of dry fitted all of his minis that are for this Phobos. Oh, this is for his Raven Guard.
Yep.
So cool.
Yep. So dry fitted them all down the bottom there, and then he separated them all into their specific baggies.
Oh, there is Recon Marines. Yeah, he's making Recon Marines for Horsehair, so he added the Phobos stuff.
Oh no, he's
No, that's for the Combat Patrol.
Oh, for Ground Patrol.
Raven Guard Combat Patrol. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So here we go. That's his first guy.
Is he gonna paint like the meat and the bone in all the joins?
Oh my god, dude! It makes me itch. Like
You can always tell the painters who've like, I'm counting the hours left in my life. You're just like, I don't have the hours left for this. I'm like Justin Timberlake in that Time movie where I'm looking at my wrist and being like, no, I can't do it in this many pieces. If you can't see it, I ain't painting it.
But it's one of those things where it's like my brain doesn't work like this, so I'm always fascinated by other people.
Oh yeah, I appreciate the artistry for sure. Yeah, and the commitment.
It is awesome. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing those all of those Raven Guard.
That's amazing. Cool. I always love seeing how people paint black because everyone has like a different take on it, and there's like 2 or 3 schools of like how you paint black and get it to still pop a little bit or have some depth to it. And every once in a while, somebody comes along and does it in a way that I did not expect. So
I think he's doing them as accessor. I think he's running them as Raptors.
Oh,
okay.
Very different.
Yeah.
So there'll be that the green with like the
green.
white and yellow trim.
Yeah. They'll look like conventional Marines.
Yep. And excited to see what they look like, Luis. Super cool. Patrick Keith.
I know that guy.
Cops, baby.
Yep. Painting up
Space Cops.
Nice.
Great Space Cops. So he's painted these up for Kill Team.
Oh yeah.
So this is the exaction squad.
Sometimes even the Imperial Guard needs to call 911.
But yeah, looking beautiful there.
Could you imagine going to war with that hat and being like, bow down, citizens! I have the biggest hat.
Well, then, like
so
having that like horizontal or that trans crest like catch a hard round and you're like, oh, like, yeah,
It would break your neck. It would just break it like immediately.
The bolter out could hit that and
like
take
just
your head
you would never
backwards.
put the chin strap on it because you would just immediately die. Like your neck muscles would just immediately like seize up and die.
I was worried, like scraping it around the inside of your pauldron here.
Yeah. I don't know how do you look? You have to look with your whole body, like your Batman '89, where you just can't move. So you just turn your whole torso and look around. Michael Keaton Batman look.
Maybe the whole top part's just like foam. It's just like painted.
It's a hologram.
Yeah.
He just turns it on. It just turns on. Yeah,
it's cosplay foam. It's cosplay foam.
Yeah. I would just have to be a hologram. I just have to be like a light thing. You try to just like click, and he like engages all of his stupid shit. The rest of the time, he's just in like black pads. It's like, oh, I have to peek up.
No one's gonna shoot at him. That's the law.
It's true. Yeah. But look at his dudes. The rest of his guys are like, we're not wearing that. What are you talking about? Like, let the boss wear that. I don't care about this.
Give me a beret and some sunglasses. I'm good.
Let the boss. He grew up in the orphanarium, man. Let him have this.
He's like Imperious Lex.
Yeah. The Lex
One signing says the Napoleonic era is all about hats. This hat makes perfect sense.
To be fair, the some of the best contemporary 40K fiction actually is the 40K crime books. They're super underrated, but I've read a couple of the 40K crime books and they're great because they're kind of like they're that same low stakes, like soft white underbelly of the Imperium stuff that you like from Xenos, but with like even more degenerate characters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jez says, I'm having problems in this wind.
Just a stiff wind takes him out.
But Patrick,
nice.
That's the stuff.
So yeah, this is a unit he painted in the early 90s.
Same hat.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Taking something you did back then and then doing it again to like your current ability level. Like how satisfying is that, Patrick? Where you're just like, you get to take something where you're like, I loved this, and this is exactly how I want it to be back then, but now here's this new version of it, and look what I can do now. What a great feeling that is. Also, those Jez Goodwin arbitrators stand up so well.
They do.
Like those are still great miniatures.
All of Jess's stuff stands up. So.
Yeah.
It's just
the only time it seems the only time it has anything data to do with it is when he had to sculpt something to come out of a mold. Because like those are all one-piece miniatures. Like literally, there's not a single part that you assemble in those models because they had to come out of a 2D like silicon mold.
Yep. But absolutely fantastic. Glad you're able to post those, Patrick. Very nice.
Jess's stuff only suffers from scale.
Excellent. Scott. So Scott painted. Well, we saw this model a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
This is the orc that's running for representatives of 6th congressional district, I believe.
We said we were
yeah, but it's orc politics.
Oh, it's orc politics. Okay.
Are you voting Gork or Mork? Like
who runs Mechtown?
Yeah,
we always hate it. Anyway, Scott took this to this is the model he took to Verko's Vault last weekend. But he was in the Matt DiPietro finishing school for finishers. So he was able to take a model that he felt it was almost finished and sit down with and get some sort of tutoring on that specific model and what things he could do to take it through to being finished.
As usual, I'm mad at Scott because he's a really good painter. The freckling on the chest is incredible. Just like the skin work. Like it's so hard to get the randomness of organic like stuff right. It always looks contrived, you know what I mean? But he's done such a great job of like getting that. It looks natural. It doesn't look forced. It doesn't look like planned. Yeah, good job. I hate you.
I think it's his eyes. Like he did such a good job giving him like soft eyes. Like he's like that look is like, yeah, I know I'm an orc.
He's had a bad life, but he's got a heart of gold. Yeah. He's seen some things. He's got a hard life, but he owns a puppy. Like that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like he loves his dog.
And it's a rescue.
Yeah, it's a rescue. Yeah.
It was a conscious decision.
Yeah. He killed all of his last 4 bosses and took their places, but he gives money to the poor grots in the Revolutionary Community.
He also donates to the Red Cross, and he's a good dude.
The Revolutionary Community, yeah. He knows the Red Gobo, the hand on weekends.
Yeah. But beautiful work there, Scott. I think he's looking great.
And the hair is greasy, real greasy.
Yeah, it's that wonderful slick.
Yeah.
I wonder what pomade he uses. Is it Dapper Dan?
It's Dapper Squig.
Yeah. But no, it looks awesome. Nice work, Scott. And Scott,
Ooh.
also, this guy.
This
It's quite the
from
tactical rock.
That's an old Infinity. I want to say Yu Ching miniature. I
Okay.
think that's a Zhu Yang Invincible, a terracotta warrior with a multi rifle.
I dig it.
Hard to tell when they're not in like bright yellow.
Yeah.
But he's done his in like dark, cool.
Yeah. He's got a lot of that like deep ocean blue kind of look to it. But no, looking good. I love that. So the way that the light is catching on the tops of all of those armor plates.
Yeah.
Just giving you that great sort of definition of the outline. Scott says box said JSA, whatever that is.
That's not JSA, I don't think. If it is, it's not a JSA model I'm familiar. Oh no, it's not a Domaru. No, it's a Zuyang. I'm dollars not that's a Yu. I mean, Yu Ching JSA used to be part of Yu Ching, so it could just be an older, but I'm pretty sure it's a Zuyang.
Okay.
Is it one of the old orange boxes?
Yeah, if it's an old box, it could just be weirdly labeled.
But no, nice work, Scott. Good.
I like that.
And Steven's posted
Another old school Ralparth the Dragon Man.
Damn! Get your Dragon Lances, son. Called Tanis Half Elven.
Sturm sends his regards.
That's right. Give me my what was his name? Tasselhoff Burfoot up in this house. Go fight this Dragon Man. God, those books are so bad. Those books, if you go to reread those books, they're so bad.
What? Dude, get out of here. Those books are amazing.
Brothers, try and read them.
Oh.
Try and read them recently. They're not great. The Chronicles are not great. They're pretty cringy.
I don't know, man. The Chronicles still they hold up pretty well, considering.
All right.
We talked about a couple weeks ago. The whole.
I want you to sit down with a person who's never heard them and read them out loud and see what happens.
You're right.
just when you read it out loud, it feels different than when you read it to yourself.
Steven says he's in the chat. It says this is for his Hobgoblin army.
Oh, I love that.
Nice. Hobgoblin the game.
Shout out to Hobgoblin. Yeah, shout out to my boy Mike Hutchinson.
Nice.
He's in retail now. Yeah, he's launching that whole thing. And Greg too, Greg Horton over at Electi Studios.
Yep. Excellent. So nice work, Stephen. I think that is it for the end of the minis.
The show and tell.
The show and tell. So super cool. Thank you very much, everybody. It was very neat. And then next week we have joining us
Chris O'Neill.
Yep, Chris O'Neill from 9th Level Games. So we're gonna have Chris on talking about all sorts of stuff, all the fun games that they produce, including they do. Is it Kobolds Ate My Baby?
Yeah, Kobolds Ate My Baby is their first one, and then they do The Excellence. They do Nancy Druid. They do Mazes, which is one of my favorites. Yeah, they have a ton of games. Like they make a lot of like really fun RPGs and like story games. So
awesome, excellent. So we will have Chris on ahead of PAX Unplugged.
Sweet.
Well, it'll be a couple of weeks before PAX Unplugged, but I'm excited. We've got we have five episodes left in this season. Who we've got? We've got so Chris next week. But get after that. We've got 3 more guests.
Mike from Epic Deck Studios.
We'll have Mike up for next year. We're going to talk with you.
Season 6.
Season
Sounds
6.
good.
Season 6.
Or at
I
least
snuck him in under the wire. I'm just starting to hire random guests. just unannounced guests.
I'm like, you guys didn't see in the show notes, like Ash is our new unofficial showrunner and producer, so he tracks down guests for us.
I'll do the midnight takeovers. Have like the movie watch nights. I'll host your movie watch nights.
Nice.
All the movies we reference, you guys can have your patrons pick one and we'll all watch together.
Nice. That's cool. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mike, for joining us. Ash,
thank you.
Not so much. No, just kidding. Thanks very much, guys, for joining us and hanging out tonight and talking about
Damned25.
Damned25.
Damned25. Talking about Mordheim.
Talking about the last punk rock album. Of
the final. That's right. The final GW punk rock album. Absolutely.
GW punk rock album.
That's it.
So yeah, I think we had a lot of good banter, but buried in there's a lot of I think a lot of really sort of thought-provoking stuff about the way that games were made, the way the game's made now, and what, if anything, we'd be trying to recapture if people are asking GW to make a new Mordheim.
Yeah.
Then I think there's a bunch of good points that you hit on there. So
thanks, man. Well, I think the message at the end of it all is just find your people. Like there's people out there still playing Mordheim. There's people out there playing the way you want to play. I think if the mainstream isn't necessarily fit to what your expectation or experience is anymore, just go find the people that are playing the game you want to play, because they're out there, and you're flying to what, Austin, to go play with those people this coming week, right?
Houston.
Like they're out there.
Yeah,
Houston, sorry.
Not even Austin.
Not even Austin. The worst version of Austin. Austin with all the cool stuff taken out and a bigger airport.
Yeah. So it's going to be awesome. I am looking forward to it. I'll post a bunch of photos in the Facebook group, so definitely check those out. But,
awesome. Well, thanks for having us, man.
Cool. No worries. Jake.
Well, while Dave cues this up, yeah, it was a blast talking to it again. We're looking forward to having Chris next week. Thank you again to the Iron Painter for being our season sponsor. Hopefully Dave and I'll have some new news about that for season 6, so that'll be kind of cool. Yeah, fingers crossed. Like, who knows? Thank you guys both for being here. We appreciate you taking time out of your day. Again, I think that people always love when we have Ash on the show. The last episode is insane. Like, it's basically just Ash and I kind of going bananas for 2 hours.
Yeah, Dave
patiently sitting in the back.
I can't imagine you doing that, Ash.
It was unhinged.
Yeah,
it was Dave just being like,
we're both on really good behavior today.
I told you this. If I have a minder, I'm like, if I bring a date, I'm not going to misbehave. This is how this works.
Yep. Last time, Mike, it was talking about the Grimdark Media.
Okay,
that's right.
Playlist. So,
yeah. I should have Jay on for that one. I'll bring Jay on for one of these.
Yeah, that'd be
but thank you guys so much. Everybody watching and listening at home, thank you guys so much for being here. Check out the links below. You can see Ash's stuff. You can see the new merch. If you have any questions, let us know. We will see you next week. And as always, do not forget to build, paint, play.
Shut up and sit down.